A boy experiences a terrifying nightmare of an execution before a crowd. The victim's face is covered in sweat and blood while trembling. A stern hero holds a sharpened blade against the man's throat. Surrounded by allies, the protagonist prepares to deliver final justice. Blood splatters as the fatal strike ends the villain's miserable life. Gasping for air, a young boy awakens in a dark bedroom. He stares at his tiny hands, realizing he has been reincarnated. Fear grips his heart as he recognizes his new identity. The world is a familiar game where a hero seeks power. Beautiful classmates gather around the protagonist during his academy days. Eventually, the hero must defeat a corrupt ducal family for peace. This child is Luke Hugelo Discustos, the family's second son. In the original story, he is mocked as a repulsive toad. He used his authority to bully others and harass innocent girls. The game contained many harsh scenes that were difficult to watch. Neglected by his family, young Luke lived in total isolation. He lacked magical talent and failed to meet any expectations. His own relatives eventually discarded him after his humiliating defeat. This character was never meant to be more than a minor obstacle. Looking at his small hands, he realizes he is only 5 years old. Luke dreads transforming into the repulsive, gluttonous version of himself from his horrifying nightmare. He decides that family love is unnecessary since he retains memories from his previous life. By avoiding evil deeds and maintaining his health, he believes he can successfully rewrite his tragic future. The high-ranking nobility provides a comfortable lifestyle, allowing him to dream of a peaceful and worry-free existence. Yet, he quickly realizes that being a passive bystander won't be enough to survive this world. His family remains fundamentally corrupt, making him a likely target for future purging if he stays weak. Suddenly, a revolutionary thought occurs to him as he clutches his pillow in the quiet room. He remembers that the character Luke was supposed to possess an incredible latent talent for magic. Focusing his mind, he detects a swirling mass of energy within himself and wonders if it is mana. He struggles to understand how to manifest spells without the familiar user interface from the original game. Visualizing the heal command, he attempts to trigger the magic through sheer willpower and memory. Taking a deep breath, he brings his hands together to attempt his first verbal incantation. Heal, he whispers, causing a brilliant light to erupt and envelop his tiny, feverish body. He examines his glowing hands, unsure if the spell worked without a digital health bar for confirmation. A subtle sense of relief washes over him, suggesting that his physical condition is finally beginning to stabilize. Driven by newfound hope, he decides to cast the healing spell once more to ensure full recovery. He repeats the word with intense focus, channeling more magical energy through his small frame. His concentration is broken by a maid's voice outside the door, announcing that it is time to wake. He acknowledges the arrival of morning, realizing that his long night of fever and revelation is over. Although he feels slightly sluggish, his body has remarkably recovered from the illness, thanks to his hidden power. Luke reflects on his mana limits while lying in bed, noticing his maid approaching as he ponders the necessity of formal study. Realizing that without a proper teacher, he must find an alternative way to learn. So he calls upon Syrup, his young beastfolk maid, asking her to read to him. Although she questions if the advanced book on magic basics is suitable for him, offering simpler picture books instead, until Luke explains his desire to master magic, employing his youthful charm and innocent gaze to persuade her, which immediately wins over the devoted maid's heart through his sheer cuteness, prompting her to let him rest comfortably on her lap during their study, as he further requests help with learning how to read and calculate, emphasizing that she is the only person he can truly rely on right now, leading Syrup to enthusiastically accept the responsibility of being his temporary tutor, though she jokingly suggests they incorporate physical training into their daily schedule, which Luke politely declines while maintaining a sweet, endearing smile, starting their first lesson as she begins reading the complex text aloud. Even though she visibly struggles with the obscure vocabulary and abstract concepts, prompting Luke to offer gentle encouragement despite the difficulty of the material, allowing him to summarize the fundamental principles of magic in his mind. Concluding that mana is a transparent energy found throughout the surrounding air. which activates only when channeled into a precise mental image of the desired effect. Luke learns that aristocrats manifest powerful elemental magic as they grow older. Belonging to the prestigious Discustos family ensures he unlocks these elemental abilities. However, the mental strain of studying and training makes him incredibly drowsy, until he finally succumbs to exhaustion, drifting off on Syrup's comfortable lap. Seeing this, the loyal maid gently carries him toward his large bed, where she carefully tucks him under the covers for a deep sleep. Watching him, she realizes how much he changed since his fever ended, and with a determined heart, she whispers a silent vow to protect him. Consequently, a full year of rigorous training passes quickly in the mansion, as Luke successfully expands his mana capacity to impressive new heights, recalling how he often collapsed from exhaustion during the early days, though he still remains isolated without access to a proper magic teacher. Meanwhile, he spends hours researching strategies to avoid his preordained fate, prioritizing his physical health to prevent the transformation he deeply fears, shuddering at the memory of the original character's unhealthy, obese appearance. So he introduces the revolutionary concept of daily face washing with soap, while Syrup watches in confusion as he demonstrates the cleansing lather, staring in stunned silence at the idea of her master having delicate skin, before shouting in alarm at his perceived vulnerability and mysterious past self. Yet he simply smiles and continues his skincare routine with a calm heart. Luke and Syrup establish a strict twice-daily skincare regime to maintain their youthful and radiant complexions. He utilizes high-end luxury products like moisturizing creams and sunscreen to preserve his delicate, noble skin. Combining magic training with daily chores, Luke levitates heavy water buckets to fill his bathtub efficiently. Syrup praises Luke for his glowing complexion, while they enjoy the breeze on the mansion's balcony. During their bath time, Luke continues his thorough cleansing routine, while Syrup assists him with his back. His health improves remarkably as he becomes more mindful of his daily physical care and hygiene. To further his recovery, Luke instructs the head butler to stop serving the standard heavy family meals. He vividly recalls how the greasy food from his household previously caused him constant digestive distress. Implementing recipes from his past life, Luke prepares light and balanced meals to stabilize his condition. His appetite returns as he enjoys a simple sandwich, proving his stomach is finally handling food better. Breaking his old lazy habits, Luke ceases oversleeping and begins every morning with a clear mind. He ventures into the nearby forest daily to absorb necessary sunlight and improve his overall mood. Accompanied by his loyal maid, Luke establishes a consistent routine of light gymnastics and outdoor walks. When Syrup offers to teach him more exercises, Luke politely declines to maintain his own pace. He remains firm in his absolute will to avoid overexertion while staying healthy and fit. Syrup watches him intently, curious about the deep motivations behind her master's sudden and mature changes. Luke honestly expresses his simple desire to live a healthy, easy life, far away from future tragedies. Confused by the apparent contradiction, Syrup questions how an easy life could be difficult to achieve. Luke clarifies that preventing himself from becoming a lazy glutton actually requires constant and disciplined effort. Syrup stares at him in awe, wondering how such a cute child possesses such complex philosophies. Reflecting on his previous gluttonous self, Luke vows to transform his naturally good looks into a handsome adulthood. While soaking in the bath, he contemplates how incredibly dull life as a minor noble truly is. Luke explains to Syrup that noble life lacks high-quality entertainment to keep a person truly engaged. He notes that while amusement facilities exist, they aren't places a child could visit every single day. Observing his father's coldness, he expects to remain ignored and discarded by the main family branch. Lying in the grass, he realizes that being born a noble doesn't mean his path is predetermined. While the original Luke squandered his advantages, he intends to effectively utilize his environment for the future. Standing in a beam of light, he pledges not to let his blessings go to waste through suffering. Dreaming of a simple future, he imagines a happy marriage with a cozy home and a pet. As gold coins fall, he realizes he needs a stable income source to survive potential social isolation. Contemplating the Royal Academy, he weighs the life-altering choice of whether or not to actually attend. He remembers that the original game structure was strictly divided into two very distinct gameplay segments. The story balanced romance and training in the academy, with a strategic part focused on stopping villains. Clutched by anxiety, he calculates that avoiding the academy would significantly boost his chances of survival. Vivid images of the beloved heroines and monsters remind him of why he adored the game so much. His face flushes with genuine affection as he admits his deep love for all the game's characters. Overlooking the sprawling city, Luke vows to fully immerse himself in this world and seek true happiness. Syrup playfully teases her master, correctly identifying his ultimate goal of living a healthy and joyful life. When she suggests swordsmanship, he quickly declines, preferring to avoid any unnecessary physical exertion or labor. As Syrup dries his hair, she realizes just how much he cherishes his current peaceful and quiet existence. Luke surprises Syrup by suggesting she should handle the sword fighting for him instead, leaving her overjoyed as he officially entrusts his personal protection to her capable hands. After which, she kindly wishes him a good night and leaves the bedroom. Yet Luke remains mindful that a truly easy life still requires basic physical health. So the very next morning, he prepares to reveal a secret magical creation he invented, manifesting a squishy, non-elemental magic entity he names Bal to serve his specific needs, explaining that this unique creature will allow him to exercise while he is fast asleep. As he contemplates the advanced knowledge needed to manipulate non-attribute magic with such precision, categorizing these versatile spells into 5 distinct groups based on their various practical intended uses, including convenient life magic like light and cleaning spells used to simplify his daily chores, and powerful enhancement magic that temporarily increases the strength of one's body or equipment, along with specialized enchantment magic, a complex skill that remains difficult for him to master, plus essential support magic capable of providing strategic buffs or debuffs during any combat encounter, and restorative recovery magic, which he performs effectively using medical knowledge from his past life, resulting in his clever application of these principles to create the autonomous slime creature, Bal, proving the entity's simple utility by commanding it to fetch a glass of fresh water, observing as the floating magical construct effortlessly performs the task without needing any further guidance, expressing gratitude to his new creation, since it only requires basic verbal commands to function. He eventually settles down to rest while leaving his physical maintenance tasks entirely to Bal, while the magical creature dutifully begins to wrap around him to carry out its programmed instructions. While Luke remains half asleep, his magical creation, Bal, forces his body to perform intense morning exercises. This unique method allows him to train his physical attributes, even while his consciousness is elsewhere. After the session concludes in the forest, he stands exhausted and drenched in sweat alongside his slime. Acknowledging the end of the workout, he offers a tired smile to his helpful magical companion. He returns to the mansion, thoroughly impressed by the convenience of automated training for his future health. Intense muscle soreness sets in immediately as he collapses onto a plush sofa to recover. Despite the physical pain, he remains determined to utilize every advantage to rewrite his tragic destiny. Surrounded by stacks of research materials, he balances his magical studies with the need for rest. His stomach growls loudly after the morning's exertion, signaling that he has completely burned through his energy. He reminds himself that he is in a crucial growth phase and needs proper nourishment to develop. Deciding that he shouldn't suppress his cravings too much, he prepares for a well-deserved reward. Right on cue, Syrup arrives with a delicious-looking pudding topped with a bright red cherry. Luke happily indulges in the treat, fully embracing his identity as a comfort-loving noble. Later that day, he uses his magic to levitate his cushion while focusing on a difficult book. Syrup watches him with a mixture of confusion and curiosity, waiting for a moment to speak up. Sensing her gaze, Luke pauses his reading to ask if anything is bothering her. She finally points out the obvious, asking with astonishment why he is currently floating in midair. He explains that the logic of levitating himself is identical to moving any other simple object. Realizing that explaining complex magical theory would be far too tedious, he chooses a different approach. Instead of further explanation, He invites Syrup to join him on the floating cushion for a rest. Syrup looks a bit flustered, as Luke asks her if she is truly okay with his plan. She tentatively steps onto the magical cushion while Luke promises to support her weight with his mana. The cushion suddenly ascends into the air, causing the maid to squeal in surprise at the levitation. Spinning around in joy, she admits that she has never experienced something so incredibly comfortable and unique. However, Syrup stops to raise her hand, posing a burning question that has been bothering her for months. She wonders how his body remains so lean and toned despite his seemingly sedentary and bookish daily lifestyle. Luke reveals a surprisingly muscular physique while changing clothes, much to his loyal maid's utter shock and confusion. He offers to reveal his secret, leading the excited Syrup toward the courtyard for a special training session. They walk outside into the bright morning sun as Luke prepares to demonstrate his hidden physical prowess. Luke explains that the first step involves molding mana into a concentrated orb to enhance his physical capabilities. Placing a hand on his heart, he begins the process of channeling energy through his entire nervous system. His eyes glow with a sharp, determined light as he fully activates his secret martial arts magic technique. Syrup watches in stunned silence, her ears twitching as she senses the massive aura radiating from the boy. In an instant, Luke transforms into a blur of speed, unleashing a flurry of incredibly precise combat moves. He explains that his evolved slime companion Bal helps his brain master complex martial techniques almost instantly. A sequence of panels shows Luke darting across the grounds with agility that far exceeds any normal child. He executes a devastating high kick with perfect form, leaving Syrup completely speechless at his hidden combat talent. Distraught by the contradiction, the maid screams about how much he supposedly hated moving just minutes ago. She watches the after images of her young master, struggling to reconcile his lazy words with his intense training. Luke finishes the demonstration with a powerful punch directed forward, demonstrating the fruits of his automated exercise. Luke takes a deep breath, settling his surging mana after the intense physical demonstration. Exhaling slowly, he wipes the sweat from his brow, while feeling the weight of his progress. Turning toward his stunned maid, he casually asks for her honest opinion on his movements. Syrup erupts in pure excitement, showering her young master with heartfelt praise for his incredible strength. She rushes over to him, amazed that he has been training so hard in secret all along. Syrup marvels at his expert martial skills, claiming they surpass even the most seasoned combat professionals. While helping him change, she is shocked by the visible results of his rigorous, hidden physical regimen. She gratefully accepts his offer to teach her, her eyes sparkling with newfound respect and admiration. The two walk back toward the mansion to prepare for the rest of their daily tasks. Luke demonstrates how he molds mana into a concentrated orb to enhance his tiny, growing body. He explains the intricate process of circulating energy through his heart to maximize his overall physical efficiency. Focus sharpens in his eyes as he prepares to show her the next level of his technique. Syrup's ears twitch in surprise as she realizes the sheer scale of the power he is manifesting. A sudden burst of magical pressure radiates from Luke, catching his devoted maid completely off guard. He reveals that Bal assists his cognitive functions, allowing him to bypass years of traditional combat training. Swiftly, he cycles through a variety of complex fighting stances with fluid and perfectly practiced movements. He executes a powerful, high-velocity kick that creates a sharp gust of wind in the quiet courtyard. Syrup cries out in total disbelief, pointing out the absurdity of his claims about hating physical movement. She watches in a daze as his rapid movements blur into several distinct afterimages across the grass. After the workout, Luke cools off in a secluded forest pool while Syrup recalls an important detail. Luke notices the rumors about Syrup's increasing beauty among the other household maids. Over 5 years of shared beauty routines, her appearance has blossomed into something truly radiant. Meanwhile, her diligent sword training has given her a sharp and dignified aura of strength. After descending from his floating cushion, Luke officially delegates his future safety to her. Her eyes light up with joy, just from hearing him call her name so kindly. He gently pats her head, feeling privileged to see such a cute and loyal side. Soon after, Luke decides it is finally time to run an important errand regarding his magic. He asks Syrup to request an official attribute magic inspection from his distant father. With a polite bow, she departs to deliver the message to the main estate immediately. Alone now, Luke relaxes on his cushion, eagerly anticipating the results of the upcoming test. He considers that attribute magic is widely believed to be a divine gift granted at birth. Typically, an experienced mage identifies a child's natural element, such as fire, through specialized guidance. However, the question remains as to who exactly will be sent to teach him. The prestigious Ministry of Magic manages and regulates all elemental magic users within the entire kingdom. Usually, only elite mages from this organization are dispatched to tutor high-ranking noble children. Luke feels quite confident that he won't be lacking an element given his lineage. The Disgustos family is renowned for their magical excellence, with every member possessing unique elemental powers. His father wields the power of sand, representing the family's strong and shifting foundation, while his siblings and stepmother command elements like iron, stone, and even the power of temptation. Finally, he wonders with a mysterious smile which powerful attribute will eventually manifest within his own body. A sudden knock at the door interrupts Luke's quiet reading time on his floating cushion. The door swings open as the visitor gasps at the sight of the levitating boy. An elegant man in a dark cloak enters and immediately mistakes the pretty Luke for a girl. Luke is slightly annoyed, wondering how his appearance could possibly be confused for a young girl. He internally questions his own cuteness while looking at the visitor with a skeptical and flat expression. Syrup greets the guest and introduces him as a high-ranking official from the Magical Management Bureau. This man is Marsa Glico, the powerful bureau chief sent specifically to inspect the family's magic. Marsa seems momentarily startled by the presence of a beastkin maid serving in such high society. He quickly composes himself by adjusting his glasses, though he remains silent while observing the room. The official addresses the child on the cushion, still believing he is speaking to a noble lady. Marsa expresses his shock at the child's perfect memory regarding his long and complex official title. He humbly mentions that most people struggle to remember his specific position after just one introduction. The visitor notes that the Disgustos family truly has no openings, if even their children are this capable. While Syrup accepts the compliment, Luke remains silent and continues reading his book in the background. Marsa finally asks where the Duke's son is, not realizing the boy is sitting right there. Syrup points to the cushion, forcing the official to realize his massive blunder and apologize profusely. Luke thinks the man might have been genuinely impressed, rather than just mocking his feminine appearance. He considers the state religion's doctrine, which often leads to harsh discrimination against non-human races. For a moment, Luke worried Marsa would look down on Syrup, but the man remains surprisingly polite. Deciding that Marsa Glico is a trustworthy person, Luke lands his cushion to begin the magic test. Luke casually addresses the official as Mars-san, causing the man to stutter in surprise at the informal greeting. He further insists on being called simply by his first name to build a more relaxed atmosphere. Reaching out with a confident hand, the young boy offers a friendly handshake to seal their new partnership. Marsa finds himself genuinely amused by the child's mature social skills as a warm glow fills the room. They solidify their pact with a firm handshake, marking the beginning of their official magic inspection process. Settling onto plush sofas, Marsa announces that it is finally time to determine Luke's natural, elemental affinity. He instructs the boy to gently close his eyes and focus on the flow of energy within. The official prepares a specialized tool to probe the depths of the child's hidden magical potential. Luke remains perfectly still, centered on the couch as concepts of sleep and sloth swirl in his mind. His eyes flutter as he feels a mysterious sensation awakening deep within his core during the test. A complex internal realization occurs as he discovers a unique attribute magic has manifested inside of him. He opens his eyes with a satisfied smirk, finding the results of the inspection to be quite extraordinary. Based only on a short description, he quickly grasps the fundamental nature of his newly discovered power. Marsa kindly offers to provide some additional context regarding the specific classification of this particular magic type. He reveals that both of Luke's attributes are actually categorized as highly coveted and rare forms of magic. While common magic is officially registered, rare abilities are often shrouded in secrecy to protect the user's family. The official suggests a vague public cover name for the ability to avoid drawing unwanted attention from rivals. Luke internally ponders the potential applications of his power, wondering if there are more advanced techniques to learn. Marsa emphasizes that constant dedication to one's craft is essential for mastering any magical attribute regardless of rarity. He concludes that truly facing his magic is the only way to reach the pinnacle of sorcery. Luke tells Marsa to keep his advice in mind when the official training eventually begins. Marsa smiles warmly at the young boy, genuinely appreciating the child's mature and thoughtful attitude. He remains impressed by the young noble's aura before a sudden realization strikes his professional mind. Marsa's composure breaks completely when Luke casually mentions the existence of rare and powerful appraisal magic. He leans in with intense curiosity, demanding to know how a child knows such highly classified information. Luke calmly explains that since Marsa saw his attributes, he deduced the man possessed the rare skill. The official is left coughing in sheer amazement at the boy's terrifyingly sharp and logical deductive reasoning. Syrup interjects to suggest a tea break. Noticing the conversation has become quite heated and overwhelming, they settle into a relaxing tea time, while Syrup elegantly serves a unique blend to the guest. Taking a sip, Marsa is immediately struck by the refreshing and remarkably high quality of the brew. Luke explains that it is a special herbal blend designed to clear the mind and revitalize the body. When Marsa asks about its origin, Luke reveals he personally developed the recipe for his own health. He offers to gift some tea leaves in exchange for keeping his advanced magic a strictly private secret. Marsa bows his head in profound gratitude, deeply moved by the young lord's unexpected kindness and generosity. He mentions with a smile that his own daughter would surely appreciate such a thoughtful and healthy gift. Luke learns that Marsa's daughter is the same age and possesses a genuine passion for magical studies. The mention of magic reignites Marsa's professional curiosity as he gestures toward the unusual floating cushion. He eagerly asks for technical details about the levitation spell, recognizing it as something far beyond common magic. Suddenly, realizing his lapse in professional etiquette, Marsa quickly apologizes for his sudden and intense inquisitive outburst. Luke offers a warm, forgiving smile and reassures the man that he doesn't mind the enthusiasm. Luke accepts the advice, deciding to keep it in mind during his future training sessions. Marsa reacts with a simple, pleasant sound of agreement, feeling satisfied with their productive interaction. Standing up to leave, Marsa graciously thanks the young boy for the valuable time they shared. Before the official departs, Luke calls out to him with a playful yet serious look in his eyes. He asks Marsa directly if he would be willing to become his official magic mentor starting today. Marsa looks absolutely stunned by the sudden request, questioning if he is truly meant to be a master. Adjusting his glasses, the man mentions that Luke seems capable enough already, but asks for his goal. Luke proposes a correspondence apprenticeship, where they exchange letters to discuss various magic theories and personal questions. Marsa finds the idea of a long-distance, letter-based teaching arrangement to be quite a fascinating and unique concept. Luke asks if the deal is okay, while Marsa requests to ask his own research questions in return. Excitedly agreeing, Luke promises to answer what he can despite his limited experience with this world's logic. Marsa confirms with a warm smile that their exchange conditions have been successfully and officially established. They share a bright moment of mutual respect, marking the beginning of their secret master and disciple bond. Reflecting later, Luke feels satisfied having gained a mentor and deep knowledge about the world's magic systems. He notes that non-elemental magic uses imagery, while attribute magic follows strict and predetermined rules of nature. Through the appraisal, he finally grasps the true nature of the unique attribute magic hidden within himself. Studying elemental examples like fire, he realizes that once the theory is understood, only physical training remains. Luke contemplates his unique sleep attribute, which grants him 3 specialized and powerful innate magical abilities. His first skill, sleep, allows him to induce slumber in anyone he touches depending on their resistance. The remaining skills allow him to set a specific sleep duration or forcibly prevent a target from resting. Luke understands that standard magic resistance or interference spells can easily block most conventional elemental attacks. Yet his unique sleep attribute allows him to bypass awareness, leaving targets unconscious without even realizing. Consequently, he realizes that possessing two distinct cheat-level abilities gives him an overwhelming advantage. He contemplates developing a long-range sleep arrow to neutralize distant enemies before they can react. Imagining the possibilities, he mischievously thinks about putting teachers to sleep to breeze through academy life. Surrounded by research, he remains eager to conduct countless magical experiments to test his theories. Stretching out, he laments that 24 hours a day is simply insufficient for his ambitious goals. Every morning, he relinquishes control to his slime companion Bal for a rigorous and efficient workout. Feeling physically refreshed, he prepares to focus his sharpened mind on the next set of experiments. His stomach growls loudly, prompting him to consider what to prepare for a much-needed energy boost. Syrup suddenly appears to announce mealtime, prompting Luke to ask her to handle the preparations. Since arriving, they have maintained a steady routine of alternating cooking duties using modern culinary knowledge. While Syrup excels at every maid task with grace, her culinary skills remain a distinct challenge. Her cooking style is undeniably bold and energetic, yet it unfortunately lacks any sense of refined delicacy. Now 11 years old, Luke reflects on the growing list of daily problems he must solve. Deciding to clear his head, he rushes outside to wash away the sweat from his training. He arrives at a secluded local waterhole, enjoying a moment of quiet peace while bathing alone. A sudden sound catches his attention, causing him to freeze as he hears an unfamiliar human voice. Hiding behind a large rock, he wonders why anyone would visit such a remote and isolated location. He watches a mysterious figure tremble in despair, whispering about the cold finality of dying alone. Luke wonders who could be wandering in such an isolated place while he finishes cleaning up. He discovers a young girl hiding in the shadows of the forest, appearing visibly distressed and alone. Approaching cautiously, he calls out to her to confirm if she is indeed a person. The girl reacts with a start, her face flushing as she notices the young noble's presence. She becomes incredibly flustered and overwhelmed by the sudden encounter with the handsome young boy. Her eyes spin in total confusion as she struggles to process the situation and his appearance. Luke assumes she must be an invited guest for his older sister's faction-building tea party held today. He politely introduces himself as Luke Hugelo Descustos, the second son of the prominent ducal house. The girl, Karen C. Caribbean, suddenly performs a deep and respectful dogeza to show her humility. Luke finds her dramatic reaction quite amusing, offering a charming smile that further flusters the young lady. Karen is instantly captivated by his charisma, her eyes transforming into hearts as she stares in awe. He takes the opportunity to ask if she possesses the ability to manifest any specific attribute magic. She enthusiastically confirms her skills, while Luke admits his profound and genuine love for all things magical. Eager to witness her power, he asks her to demonstrate her unique elemental attribute right here. Karen agrees with the energy of a dedicated shop clerk, ready to serve his every request immediately. She politely excuses herself as she prepares to reveal the magical tools hidden within her attire. A stylish, heart-shaped item suddenly appears as she manifests her specialized equipment for the demonstration. She explains that these high-quality pouches are actually common commercial goods, rather than purely magical creations. While Luke is fascinated by the spatial magic pouch, Karen insistently reminds him to put on his clothes. Holding a sharpened blade, she prepares to finally unveil the true nature of her hidden magical attribute. Karen utilizes her unique cooking attribute to prepare a dish, expertly chopping ingredients and managing the stove with ease. Once finished, she takes a small taste of the meal to ensure it meets her own high culinary standards. She serves a fragrant bowl of moon rabbit herb soup, modestly explaining it was made with simple available ingredients. Taking his first bite, Luke is immediately struck by the incredible aroma and the complex flavors of the dish. The overwhelming taste sends a shock through his system, as he realizes the food is impossibly delicious beyond words. He declares it the best meal of his entire life, leaving Karen blushing with joy at the sincere praise. A sudden realization strikes his mind as he finishes, realizing the effects are more than just a pleasant taste. Staring at his empty bowl in total disbelief, he wonders how he finished the soup so incredibly quickly. He feels a massive surge of energy, confirming that her magical cooking provides powerful and beneficial status-enhancing buffs. The concept of a noble lady specializing in such incredible buff-enhancing cuisine opens up endless possibilities in his mind. He sees her as the final, strongest piece required to secure his future life of ultimate leisure and comfort. Determined not to let her escape, he turns toward Karen with an intense and surprisingly serious facial expression. He asks her if she would be willing to cook him soup every single day once they finally grow up. Luke delivers a bold marriage proposal, declaring his intent to join her family as a groom for their future. Karen is left completely speechless and love-struck, while Luke calculates the many strategic benefits for his own survival. This miracle encounter officially marks the day a life-changing proposal was made between the two young noble children. Later, the proposal is officially accepted by his father, who remains characteristically indifferent to his son's life choices. Luke feels relieved, secretly thanking his father's total lack of interest for making the engagement process so remarkably easy. During the formal family meeting, Count Caribbean warmly welcomes Luke to his prestigious and world-famous restaurant. The Count informs the young boy that he has already exchanged greetings with the Duke earlier that day. Count Caribbean welcomes Luke to the table, dismissing the lack of higher noble presence as no issue. Luke internally agrees that his father's absence is actually a relief given their cold relationship, pondering how the Duke's oppressive presence would only act as a poison to the young Karin. The formal meal continues in a surprisingly relaxed atmosphere within the grand dining hall. Luke formally proposes becoming a son-in-law, offering himself as a devoted candidate since he is a second son. With a wide and predatory grin, the Count enthusiastically welcomes the young boy into his family, teasing his daughter. The Count laughs about how Karen has already fallen deeply in love with her suitor. Karen remains silent, her eyes filled with a mixture of shyness and deep contemplation regarding the proposal. She tentatively asks if a person like her is truly worthy of his sincere and bold affection. The Count admits he heard Luke's confession, despite others cruelly mocking Karen's physical appearance in the past. Hearing this, Luke stiffens slightly as he begins to formulate a proper response to the sensitive topic. He recalls his sister Iris, a beautiful noble who looks down on anyone not meeting her standards. Yet Luke finds Karen's round face and gentle nature to be incredibly charming and full of potential. The Count erupts into boisterous laughter, expressing deep gratitude toward Luke for valuing his daughter's inner kindness. However, Luke guiltily hides the fact that her family's legendary cooking was his primary and strongest motivation. Shifting the topic, the Count questions if the seemingly delicate boy can withstand their house's rugged seafaring lifestyle. The Caribbean family legacy is built upon maritime industry, shipping, and a fierce merchant spirit across the waves. Since Karen has no brothers to inherit the title, the couple is expected to lead the household together. Imagining Karen as a happy chef, Luke realizes her culinary talents would flourish even more as a business. Luke confidently reassures his future father-in-law that his daily secret training has prepared him for any physical challenge. Luke confidently displays his SPF 50 sunscreen, ensuring his noble skin remains protected even during maritime travels. He plans to utilize his slime ball on board to negate seasickness and effortlessly manage heavy cargo transport. Recognizing the young couple needs privacy, Count Caribbean graciously prepares to depart and leave them alone. The Count entrusts Karen to Luke's care, encouraging them to enjoy a pleasant conversation in his absence. A knowing and satisfied smile plays across the Count's face as he observes their burgeoning relationship. Laughing boisterously, the Count waves goodbye and exits the grand dining room with a cheerful heart. Once alone, a nervous Karin tentatively reaches out to Luke to share her deep personal insecurities. With sudden intensity, Karin declares her desperate wish to transform into a beautiful woman worthy of him. Although Luke sincerely praises her current cuteness, Karin insistently disagrees, striving for a more refined appearance. She mentions hearing rumors about his disciplined childhood beauty regime and expresses her profound admiration for him. Meanwhile, Iris reflects on the cold indifference of her family while gracefully enjoying her solitary afternoon tea. Karen formally requests Luke's expert assistance and guidance in achieving her ambitious goal of self-improvement. Luke warns that his training methods are incredibly strict, yet Karen remains steadfast and prepared for any hardship. Anxious yet hopeful, she asks if someone like her truly has the potential to become genuinely beautiful. Luke offers a reassuring smile, promising that his special methods make a total transformation surprisingly simple. Karen stares at him in stunned silence, clearly skeptical about the apparent ease of his proposed training. Luke internally acknowledges that his sleep and bowel magic are perfect for effortless weight loss and sculpting. Suggesting they find a more suitable environment, Luke prepares to relocate their conversation to a private space. Karen asks to drop formal titles, requesting they call each other by their given names from now on. Moving the discussion to his room, Luke leads Karen and Syrup away to begin their secret lesson. Luke orders Syrup to stand guard against potential eavesdroppers, ensuring their magical training remains a strictly guarded secret. He emphasizes the need for caution regarding his sister's influence before quickly diving into the main discussion with Karen. Karen looks on in utter amazement as Luke reveals that his revolutionary weight loss method relies entirely on magic. Explaining the core concept, he describes a technique that allows a person to train physically while deeply asleep. He reveals his rare dual attributes of sleep and sloth, choosing to demonstrate the former for her today. Karen is instantly charmed when Luke introduces Bal, his adorable non-attribute magical slime created to assist in his training. The process is straightforward. Magic induces sleep, while Bal manipulates the body to mimic complex and intense physical movements. Poking the squishy creature, Karen realizes that Bal functions as a highly sophisticated and completely autonomous magical construct. To ease her worries, Luke offers to perform a demonstration on himself so she can witness the effects firsthand. Activating a 1-minute sleep cycle, he lets Bal execute a flurry of precise and high-level combat maneuvers through him. 1 minute passes instantly, leaving Luke visibly perspiring and slightly breathless from the automated but very real physical exertion. Karen is left absolutely speechless, comparing his unconscious performance to that of a seasoned and powerful master martial artist. Wiping away sweat, he admits to having no actual memory of the movements, despite the obvious physical strain. Though Karen feels hesitant about her own potential, Luke reassures her that simply incorporating Bal will guarantee her success. They finalize the plan to begin her first trial session, with Karen nervously but eagerly accepting the challenge. While she changes into suitable attire behind a screen, Luke asks if she has any natural affinity for athletics. Karen admits with a blush that she has always struggled with sports and generally lacks any athletic coordination. Despite her lack of agility, she claims to possess surprising strength even while feeling weighed down by her physique. Luke suggests they start with very light movements today to help her body gradually acclimate to the magical sensations. After 1 full hour has passed, a groggy voice signals the end of her first successful automated training session. Luke approaches the exhausted Karen resting on the sofa, gently inquiring about her physical condition after her first session. Lying motionless, Karen remains silent for a moment as she processes the intense fatigue weighing down her entire body. She admits to feeling incredibly tired and out of breath, finding the automated training far more strenuous than expected. Groaning in pain, she explains that every muscle in her body is aching, and she simply cannot move anymore. Luke advises continuing with light exercise to build a basic foundation, warning that muscle pain is part of the process. Despite the discomfort, Karen vows to endure and work hard, her determination shining through her sweat and exhaustion. Moving on, Luke announces that the next phase of her transformation will focus on the essential art of beauty. He demonstrates how to create a rich lather with soap, explaining that the foam itself lifts the dirt away. Luke emphasizes the importance of a gentle touch, warning that harsh scrubbing only serves to damage delicate noble skin. Following his instructions, Karen carefully washes her face with lukewarm water while surrounded by high-quality beauty supplies. He reminds her to always be conscious of not rubbing her face, teaching her to handle her skin with care. Introducing an array of mysterious bottles, Luke prepares to explain the vital role of lotions and various moisturizers. Finally, Luke uses a chart to explain that proper nutrition is absolutely vital for sculpting a truly beautiful physique. Karen is thrilled by the challenge, eager to apply her culinary genius to creating delicious yet healthy diet meals. She quickly becomes obsessed with recipe development, her passion for cooking merging perfectly with her goal of self-improvement. The journey begins simply with high-protein soybean dishes and light, nutritious steamed chicken salads served on elegant plates. Incorporating Luke's modern nutritional suggestions, Karen rapidly expands her repertoire of healthy and flavorful dishes over time. Luke particularly enjoys her Japanese-style creations, featuring heart-healthy tofu hamburgers accompanied by savory, traditional miso soup. Savoring the meal, Luke feels a deep sense of joy, finding familiar flavors from his past life here. However, Karen's enthusiasm leads her to prepare an overwhelming amount of food, completely covering the large dining table. Karen worries about wasting surplus food, while Luke warns against overeating even the healthiest of meals, suggesting that she donate the extra portions to the local orphanages located throughout the nearby city districts, prompting Karen to enthusiastically agree since she can continue her research while providing nutrition to children, declaring the arrangement a perfect mutual benefit, while Luke watches her radiant reaction with a subtle smile, leading Karen to spend her afternoons happily serving large pots of nutritious soup to the grateful orphans. Although Luke jokingly asks if she is going again, despite the charity being his own original idea, eventually traveling together by carriage, while Luke internally wishes he could just stay home and be lazy. Arriving at the dilapidated orphanage building accompanied by Syrup and an energetic Karen ready to help, noticing a mouse on the floor as he contemplates the unfortunate and unhygienic state of the orphanage, while a young worker is overwhelmed by the sudden visit from the noble Karen and her group, before the girl breaks down in tears, explaining her inability to help her sick and unconscious brother, mentioning that since she lacks healing magic, the greedy church would demand payments they cannot afford, causing Luke to sigh and decide to personally inspect the boy since he dislikes the church's policies. The girl leads them through the corridor to show them exactly where her brother is currently resting, finding the room dark and stuffy as Syrup opens the window to improve the sick boy's environment. Observing the boy's labored breathing and concluding that he is likely suffering from a severe respiratory illness, manifesting his healing magic with a precise mental image of restoring the child's damaged and struggling lungs. Watching as the magical light fades and the boy's breathing finally stabilizes into a deep, peaceful slumber, leaving the sister crying with profound relief, while Luke confirms that the treatment was a total success, before kindly refusing the girl's offer of payment since he never intended to profit from his magic. Luke clarifies his noble status, claiming the healing was merely a calculated experiment without any need for compensation, reasoning that witnessing the spell's success was payment enough and he should be the one expressing gratitude. The young girl is left trembling in stunned silence, overwhelmed by the noble boy's immense and selfless generosity. As she bows deeply, Luke internally notes her apparent intelligence and hopes a better environment aids her future. Shifting focus to the facility's needs, Luke calls for Syrup to assist him with the next important task. Syrup jokingly remarks that since the Duke has endless gold, spending it on the orphanage is no problem. They proceed directly into the director's office to discuss necessary improvements for the children's living and learning conditions. Luke abruptly drops a heavy bag of 50 gold coins to fund comprehensive hygiene and educational reform immediately. Preventing any hesitation, he bluntly declares that he hates thinking and will not accept any form of refusal. The girl accepts his decree with a respectful smile, formally recognizing him as the orphanage's powerful new benefactor. He continues his magical research by treating various conditions, including poison, monster wounds, and severe illnesses among orphans. 3 years pass quickly, and at 14, Luke continues leading a life of ultimate comfort and quiet study, While Syrup handles chores and Karen cooks daily, Luke maintains his health using Bal's constant and automated training. He basks in the success of his carefully crafted, lazy lifestyle, feeling completely fulfilled by his peaceful routine. Reflecting on his growth, Luke acknowledges how Karen's bright influence has significantly enriched his many new daily experiences. Unfortunately, these precious and quiet days of leisure are finally destined to reach their inevitable and fast-approaching end. This spring, Karen must leave the estate to begin her new life and magical studies at the academy. Luke desires to spend every remaining second by her side before her departure changes their comfortable daily dynamic. However, he grows concerned when Karen fails to appear for their usual meeting, leaving him alone and waiting. Suspecting an unforeseen delay, Luke decides to personally search for her to ensure she has not encountered trouble. Luke spots his eldest brother, Testa, wandering the main estate at an unusually early and unexpected hour. The two brothers pass each other in total silence, highlighting the cold and distant nature of their relationship. Quickly dismissing the encounter, Luke refocuses his attention entirely on finding Karen before her imminent departure today. He heads toward a secluded gazebo, suspecting her whereabouts, while the garden's spring breeze rustles the nearby leaves. Discovering her alone among the roses, he notices her shedding quiet tears of anxiety about the upcoming journey. Seeing her now, Luke marvels at Karen's stunning transformation into a truly elegant and radiant young noblewoman. Her diligent efforts have clearly paid off, resulting in a physical change that captures everyone's surprised and admiring attention. Luke eventually finds Iris hosting a tea party, where Karen has been effectively cornered by his formidable sister. Iris greets her younger brother with a playful yet sharp smile, sensing his protective intent for the guest. Maintaining a dignified posture, the beautiful Iris questions his sudden presence during her private and exclusive social gathering. Luke ignores the pleasantries, bluntly requesting to take Karen away so they can spend their final moments together. Iris fumes with irritation, accusing him of intentionally disrupting her carefully planned event just to satisfy his selfishness. Standing firm, Luke declares his intention to rescue his kidnapped princess from his sister's overwhelming and dominant personality. Iris narrows her gaze, her expression becoming strangely intense as she focuses her attention directly on her brother. Despite her specialized magic designed to enthrall any man who meets her eyes, Luke remains completely and utterly unfazed. Finding her seductive charms useless against him, Iris pouts while Karen watches the sibling rivalry with growing embarrassment. Turning his back on Iris, Luke sincerely reassures Karen that she is far more charming and lovable than anyone. He steps forward to reclaim his fiancée, ignoring his sister's protests, while a magical aura begins to swirl. Locking eyes with Iris once more, Luke firmly tells her that this unproductive game of hers is officially over. Iris puffs her cheeks in annoyance, while Luke promises Karen they will reunite at the academy next year. Karen blushes intensely as she watches the siblings bicker, finding their interest in her to be quite overwhelming. Iris holds Karen close, her expression revealing a mix of possessiveness and satisfaction during their intense interaction. Luke leans in close to Iris, teasingly warning her that such a scary expression ruins her beautiful face. Offering a charming smile, Luke wishes his sister luck at the academy, while she remains visibly flustered by him. Taking Karen's hand, Luke decides it is time to depart, leading her away from his sister's overwhelming presence. Karen offers a polite and hurried apology to Iris as she is led away by her determined fiancé. Iris is left behind in a daze, her heart racing as she whispers her brother's name in the garden. Focusing on her own desires, Iris contemplates finding a man whose beauty can truly match her high standards. Luke gazes back with a knowing smile, leaving his sister behind as he prioritizes his time with Karen. Several months pass quickly, and Luke relaxes in his room while Syrup prepares to read another book aloud. Since Karen's departure for the Royal Academy, Luke has fully embraced a life of complete and total isolation. He reflects on how merchants now deliver everything directly to the mansion, eliminating his need to ever leave. Realizing he has no friends except Marsa, Luke suddenly feels a spark of curiosity about the outside world. Surprising Syrup, Luke abruptly decides to venture out for the day, despite his usual preference for staying indoors. He insists that Syrup accompany him even if the weather turns sour, and she obediently accepts his request. Syrup smiles brightly, genuinely surprised by her young master's rare and sudden desire for an outdoor excursion. Their carriage speeds through the city streets, driven with incredible skill and speed toward their mysterious destination. Syrup wears a heavy hooded cloak to hide her beastkin features while demonstrating her expert skills as a driver. Reflecting on past trips with Karen, Luke realizes how much he misses her presence before they finally arrive. Stepping out, Luke marvels at the speed of the journey, realizing that the family's authority clears any path. Luke smiles, wondering if he will find something truly worthwhile during this rare outing. The carriage pulls up to Mage Department Store, a massive and famous hub for adventurers. Entering the lobby, Luke encourages Syrup to shop freely, while the staff offers a warm welcome. The store owner, Mosky Maid, immediately recognizes Luke and formally introduces himself to the young noble. Luke realizes that for successful merchants, accurate and timely information is their most powerful competitive edge. They are promptly escorted to a lavishly decorated VIP room to conduct their business in private. A servant provides exceptional hospitality, presenting multiple trays filled with exquisite and colorful desserts. Mosky politely steps aside, allowing his capable daughter to take over as their personal guide. Akari Maid makes a stunning entrance, her bright smile radiating confidence as she greets her guests. Luke instantly recognizes her as one of the game's main heroines from the merchant story route. Akari's polite demeanor towards Syrup deeply impresses the young master, who values such rare kindness. Feeling quite fortunate, Luke settles into the plush sofa, eager to start his pre-academy shopping. With a professional charm, Akari inquires about the specific items they wish to purchase today. Luke requests a variety of high-quality beauty products and some innovative convenience goods for his home. Akari begins her enthusiastic sales pitch by demonstrating a sleek and powerful magical hairdryer. After a successful shopping spree, Luke beams with happiness, having purchased nearly everything on display. Turning his attention to Syrup, he kindly asks her to choose a special gift for herself. Syrup looks visibly startled by the sudden offer, as such personal shopping trips are very rare. Sensing an opportunity, Akari quickly suggests a beautiful accessory that would perfectly suit the maid. She presents a striking red choker adorned with a silver lock, which immediately catches everyone's eye. Syrup hesitates to accept the gift due to her status, but Luke insists on purchasing it for her. The devoted maid looks up in stunned silence, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. Luke hands over the boxed choker, expressing his sincere thanks for her constant and loyal service over years. Noticing her overwhelmed state, he briefly wonders if his choice of accessory was perhaps too bold or intimate. Syrup blushes intensely, realizing that her young master truly values her as more than just a common servant. He gently reaches out to personally fasten the elegant red choker around her neck in a quiet moment. The striking accessory fits her perfectly, emphasizing her beauty as she stares back at him with pure adoration. Akari erupts in cheers, praising how the item flawlessly complements the maid's radiant and newly dignified appearance. As they prepare to leave the store, a flustered Syrup follows closely while clutching her master's sleeve tightly. She tentatively asks for his final opinion on her new look, her heart racing with quiet, nervous excitement. Luke observes how the deep red color creates a stunning contrast against her flowing and pure white hair. Seeing her radiant and genuine smile, the young noble feels a profound sense of satisfaction with their outing. The two depart from the department store, while Akari bows deeply, thanking them for their very generous patronage. Akari watches them go with a knowing smirk, thoroughly satisfied with the profitable and interesting business encounter. Reflecting on the day, Luke admits that occasionally venturing outside provides a refreshing and necessary change of pace. Their carriage rolls through the busy city as he prepares for his own inevitable departure for the academy. He vows to resolve his remaining past issues before finally leaving the protective safety of his family estate. Recalling the repulsive and gluttonous fate of his original character, he remains determined to rewrite his own story. Returning home, he collapses onto his plush bed, feeling the sudden weight of his growing responsibilities and fatigue. He eventually succumbs to a deep and peaceful sleep, resting before the challenges of the new year begin. Luke contemplates the difficulty of maintaining his lazy path, realizing that even sloth requires significant effort and discipline. Staring into the mirror, he wonders how he could have ever transformed into the repulsive monster from his nightmare. He vividly recalls the gluttonous version of himself, questioning if mere lifestyle choices could cause such a grotesque change. Considering his constitution and potential allergies, he analyzes the specific ingredients used in the meals from his early childhood. Closing his eyes, he focuses on the lingering memories of those heavy foods, suspecting a more sinister underlying cause. A sudden realization strikes him, as he believes Karin's vast culinary expertise might hold the key to this mystery. Karin explains that certain food interactions can act as potent poisons, potentially altering a person's physical form over time. Reading through research notes, Luke learns that specific medicinal materials can cause permanent bodily transformations, or even death. With a sharpened gaze, he decides to reevaluate his past through the perspective of a systematic and long-term poisoning. Turning to Syrup for more clues, he asks for her honest observations regarding his behavior as a young child. Syrup recalls him being a perfectly healthy and adorable 4-year-old who possessed a seemingly bottomless and joyful appetite. She details the terrifying moment he collapsed right after a grand birthday feast, causing absolute chaos among the household staff. Following that incident, his health remained dangerously unstable for an entire year until finally stabilizing around the age of 6. Luke inquires about the cook from that period, learning that the head butler personally assumed responsibility for his meals. Everything finally connects in his mind, confirming that the head butler was the one orchestrating his slow and physical ruin. Moving with quiet determination, Luke heads toward a private chamber to finally confront the traitor lurking within his home. He enters the dimly lit room where the head butler is already waiting, seated motionlessly in a large armchair. The butler is revealed to be securely bound, blindfolded, and gagged by Bal as Luke greets him with cold eyes. Pacing around his captive, Luke demands to know why he tried to turn him into a repulsive, gluttonous shell. With a chillingly calm expression, Luke offers mock gratitude for the poisoned daily meals served during his vulnerable childhood years. Luke notes the poison failed while standing before the bound and terrified head butler. He casually sits on his slime companion Bal, looking completely relaxed during the tense interrogation. The boy confronts the trembling captive, bluntly stating he knows someone was systematically poisoning him. Behind the blindfold, the head butler sweats profusely as his crimes are slowly laid bare. Luke points to a magical thread from Bal while explaining his deduction of the past scheme. He forces the man to admit the assassination attempt was ordered by his own distant father. Walking away, Luke mocks the butler's failure, as the poison only triggered his healing magic. He reveals his childhood detoxification was accidental, proving the butler's incompetence was actually his own salvation. The young master demands a final confirmation of the crime, while the butler remains paralyzed with fear. Desperate for mercy, the captive begs for forgiveness, as Luke stares at him with cold eyes. Luke finds the quick confession pathetic, feeling disappointed by the lack of any significant or interesting resistance. Boringly, he notes that a more defiant enemy would have fueled a much stronger desire for revenge. He decides to offer a terrifying form of forgiveness, while the butler remains bound in his chair. Channeling his unique attribute, Luke prepares to deliver a magical sentence that the man cannot escape. Reassuring the terrified servant he won't die, Luke prepares to use him as a magical test subject. A swirling vortex of energy erupts as the young boy activates his mysterious and potent sloth magic. Luke bestows a cursed gift of eternal laziness upon the butler, who begins to lose all will. The man's eyes flutter shut as the magic takes hold, stripping away his focus and vitality instantly. Observing the results, Luke concludes the experiment was a success and provided valuable data on human targets. He dismisses the now useless servant, telling him to return to his duties in a state of lethargy. Luke confirms his dark suspicions, identifying Duke Discustos as his ultimate and most dangerous enemy, realizing that while crushing underlings is easy, Provoking his father would be troublesome. Thus, he decides to neutralize the threat through more subtle and indirect means, intending to render his father's pawns utterly powerless and permanently inactive. Consequently, returning home where Syrup questions his mysterious and sudden disappearance, settling down for a quiet and intimate heart-to-heart with his loyal maid, playfully asking if she would be happy if he chose to attend the academy, causing Syrup to panic as she believed his attendance was always a certainty, gently explaining the risk of assassination while contemplating his many potential futures. Regardless, he remains determined to act solely to protect his peaceful, lazy life, plotting to assist the game's protagonists in dismantling his own corrupt family, accepting that although it is a massive hassle, he truly loves this world, vowing to perfectly maintain his public persona as a lazy and villainous noble, promising himself that he will never allow anyone to take his life. Exactly 1 year later, Luke finally departs the estate in an elegant carriage, arriving at the massive arena for the prestigious Royal Academy entrance exams, preparing for the upcoming academic, magical, and practical evaluation phases, intending to coast through without effort until a mysterious beastman creates a stir. Observing the stranger while wondering if they are a candidate for the practical exam, Luke suddenly catches sight of a girl with vibrant green hair, wondering if she is someone important. He watches intently as the mysterious candidate prepares to demonstrate her combat skills in the large arena. A close-up reveals her striking emerald green eyes, confirming her identity through a familiar character design. Recognizing her as Ruby, a high-level adventurer and a key heroine from the original game story, Ruby moves with lightning speed, unleashing a series of devastating attacks that leave the observers completely stunned. She delivers a powerful blow to her opponent, showcasing physical strength that far exceeds any normal student. Executing a perfect acrobatic maneuver, she continues her relentless assault while the crowd watches in absolute awe. Her exceptional physical abilities and refined combat techniques prove that she is a truly formidable and dangerous competitor. Luke formally introduces himself to the crowd, his prestigious family name immediately causing a stir among candidates. Feeling quite bored, he prepares to manifest his non-attribute magic while ignoring the skeptical looks from onlookers. He unleashes a massive burst of magical energy, instantly obliterating the targets and leaving the examiners speechless. His opponent is left in total disbelief as Luke casually displays power far beyond their wildest expectations. Ruby watches the display with a playful and interested expression, her attention now fully captured by him. Walking away from the smoldering ruins of the targets, Luke impatiently calls for the next evaluation phase. Ruby lets out an intrigued hum while her tail twitches, finding this mysterious noble boy to be fascinating. She eventually skips away from the testing area, leaving her defeated and humiliated opponent far behind. Luke realizes he has lost track of the green-haired girl, but remains confident they will reunite soon. Recalling the original story, he knows his high scores ensure a smooth transition into his academy life. Several days later, a visibly anxious Syrup presents him with a formal letter that just arrived. They celebrate together as the official notice confirms his successful enrollment into the prestigious Royal Academy. A shimmering light marks the beginning of a brand new and pivotal chapter in Luke's journey. The official romance and strategy simulation segment finally commences as Luke steps into his academy uniform. He confidently acknowledges his own striking appearance while preparing to navigate the complex social landscape ahead. Standing tall and proud, he perfectly embodies the aura of a high-ranking and exceptionally powerful noble. Examining his reflection, he marvels at how well he wears the formal attire compared to his past. Syrup informs him that his transport is ready, signaling the immediate start of his new life. The massive and prestigious campus of the Royal Academy stretches out before him in all its glory. Elite noble students gather in groups, showcasing the immense social influence held within these ancient stone walls. Talented commoners also join the ranks, eager to prove their worth alongside the kingdom's most powerful families. The institution serves as a critical training ground for those destined to fight the world's monster threats. Additionally, it operates as a specialized research hub where legendary mages explore the deepest mysteries of magic. The game's academy phase is defined by two major and essential objectives that every student must pursue. Candidates focus on increasing their physical combat stats, while simultaneously building strong relationships with key heroines. Every interaction leads to different story branches, requiring careful management of flags to reach a desired route. Luke intends to play the role of a minor villain while secretly aiding the protagonist from shadows. He feels immense relief, knowing his disciplined training has already successfully rewritten his once grotesque and tragic fate. Thinking of Syrup and Karen, he vows to survive the Academy's many dangers for their shared future. After checking his bags, he thanks his loyal maid for her characteristically thorough and perfect travel preparations. Syrup stares at him with visible distress, struggling with the thought of being separated from her master. She laments the strict academy rules that prevent her from serving him directly within the student dormitories. Luke reflects on the strict academy rules regarding age differences for personal servants during his upcoming enrollment, holding Syrup's hands gently while explaining that her age prevents her from accompanying him to the school. Noting the absence of any same-aged servants in his household who could legally join him at academy, while Syrup voices her deep anxieties about the new servant his distant father has recently arranged for him, Luke offers a warm smile, reminding her that he is capable and Karen will be there to help. However, Syrup looks him directly in the eyes, expressing her sincere desire to remain the one serving him. The young master pauses, visibly moved by the raw and heartfelt emotion in his devoted maid's sudden outburst. Closing his eyes, he whispers a sincere thank you, while holding onto her hands with profound, quiet gratitude. A nostalgic memory surfaces of Syrup protectively holding him as a vulnerable infant during his lonely early years. She provided the unconditional love and warmth that his own biological family had always so cruelly and completely denied. Looking at her now, he realizes the immense depth of the bond they have forged over the years. He officially declares her as his only true family, while she radiates a bright and joyful, magical aura. Luke watches her move through the large room, acknowledging that she has diligently managed every aspect of his life, suddenly pulling her into a firm and unexpected embrace to bridge the distance between them one last time. He hugs her tightly, admitting that his gratitude for her many years of service is truly beyond words, promising her with absolute conviction that he will definitely find a way to properly repay her kindness someday. Bringing his face close to hers, he asks her to maintain her unwavering faith while they are apart. Syrup clutches him back, confirming her complete trust and promising to wait for his inevitable return from school. They share a final, poignant moment of mutual sadness as they both admit how incredibly lonely they'll feel. Settling onto his floating cushion, Luke promises to return for the winter holidays to ease her worried heart. Luke affectionately pats Syrup's head one last time, officially entrusting her with the management of his home. Consequently, his carriage departs from the estate, while Syrup's heartfelt farewell echoes through the quiet morning air. Gazing out at the passing city scenery, he resolves to cherish his bond with her far beyond graduation. He suddenly suggests that she should remain by his side, even after he eventually leaves his family. Syrup admits her surprise, since she anticipated a future dismissal. Yet, he firmly declares he won't release her. Overjoyed by his sincere words, she vows never to leave him, bringing a satisfied smile to his face. Mentioning his future plans, he notes that her continued service depends only on his fiancée Karen's kind permission. Inside the moving carriage, he boldly proposes that they should eventually become a truly authentic and official family. Blushing intensely, Syrup enthusiastically accepts his invitation, while he enjoys witnessing her rare and adorable spoiled side. Finally arriving at the prestigious gates, he waves a bright goodbye to start his new life among strangers. The sprawling main thoroughfare of the academy appears, bustling with the energy of the kingdom's most talented youth. Approaching the dormitory reception, a girl with glasses tentatively asks if he is indeed the famous Master Luke. Turning with a polite yet curious expression, he directly asks the newcomer to identify herself to him immediately. She formally introduces herself as Libera Glyco, revealing her identity as the devoted daughter of his secret mentor, This intelligent young lady belongs to the Baron Glico house, poised to begin her own magical education. Realizing she is Marsa's child, he finds the unexpected connection between the game's various characters quite intriguing. He reflects on how the world's many social threads are beginning to weave together in interesting ways. Easing his initial suspicion of his father's chosen servant, he suggests they use each other's names from now. Libra passionately declares her profound love for magical research and her ambitious dream of joining the national ministry. He acknowledges her burning enthusiasm with a simple nod, starting a new alliance within the academy walls. Luke reassures Libra that she can definitely achieve her dream of entering the Ministry of Magic despite societal doubts. She explains that women seeking such positions are often mocked, prompting Luke to curiously ask why such prejudice exists. Observing her clutched hands and determined expression, Luke recognizes her genuine talent and serious dedication to the craft. Libra beams with a radiant smile, expressing her heartfelt gratitude for his unexpected and encouraging words of support. As they walk, Libra insists on serving as his devoted follower. Though Luke tries to maintain his independent lifestyle, the energetic girl declares her desire to learn everything about him, leaving Luke wondering why she is so affectionate. With intense focus, she proclaims his magic is a true work of art, which Luke finds quite amusingly profound. Luke recalls that in the original game, her obsessive passion for sorcery earned her the nickname Magic Freak. Deciding to change the subject before things get too heated, Luke suggests they prioritize finishing his dormitory application first. Libra proudly adjusts her glasses, vowing to handle every chore so her master never has to lift a finger. The two share a brief, silent moment of mutual observation as they begin to understand their new partnership dynamics. Excitedly, Libra asks if they can spend their remaining free time discussing complex magical theories and personal research goals. They settle down for an elegant tea time outdoors, where Luke immediately notices the pleasant and familiar herbal aroma. Sipping his drink, Luke thanks her for consistently providing the high-quality tea leaves he has enjoyed for years. Libra adjusts her glasses with scholarly intensity, eagerly asking permission to share her technical analysis of his original magic. She dives into a detailed explanation of non-attribute magic applications, starting from the basic fundamental premises of energy flow. As she rambles enthusiastically, Luke realizes that her obsessive love for research is a trait she clearly inherited from Marsa. He finds himself genuinely impressed by the exceptionally high level of knowledge and insight she possesses regarding rare spells. Visualizing both her and her father together, he concludes that they are truly a perfectly matched and similarly eccentric pair. Finishing his tea, Luke contemplates the benefits of conducting magical research together with someone as brilliant as Libra. Luke and Libra enjoy a peaceful conversation over tea in the sunny courtyard, while students begin gathering as the start of the next evaluation phase draws near. Prompting Libra to clear the table with such blinding speed, she creates multiple afterimages, anticipating the day's main event, which is finally about to commence in the Great Hall, eventually entering the massive auditorium where all the new Academy students have officially assembled. Scanning the crowd where Luke recognizes several key figures and heroines from his memories, suddenly freezing as he senses an intense and incredibly sharp gaze directed toward him. Looking up toward the balcony seats to find the source of the unsettling pressure, experiencing a sudden chill from a pair of eyes filled with pure and unbridled hatred. Noticing a young man and a woman watching him from their high vantage point. Identifying the mysterious boy as someone who reacts to his presence with immediate recognition, wondering if the knight has actually managed to identify him from such a distance. Sensing a potent mixture of deep-seated hostility and physical disgust in that sharp gaze. Reflecting that while they should be strangers, the opponent clearly holds a long grudge. Asking Libra why the boy is directing such an intense wave of animosity toward him. Libra looks up in surprise, realizing who has captured her young master's focused attention, explaining that the boy belongs to the Marshall House, a family of prestigious royal knights. Introducing Dan, a talented knight apprentice whose family has always opposed the Discustos bloodline. Thus, their inherent political conflict makes their meeting at the academy a truly volatile situation. adding that his companion Linshan is also a warrior renowned for her legendary martial excellence. Linshan, the first daughter of the Marshall family, is introduced as a childhood friend with limited magical talent. Libra identifies her servant Dan as a knight apprentice possessing the powerful and unique attribute of enhancement. Luke recalls that choosing Linshan leads the player down the most traditional and righteous story route. She is considered an easy marriage option for the hero, requiring no complex strategy to successfully win over, often culminating in a peaceful ending where she lives happily as a devoted wife and loving mother. However, in darker game routes, she is captured and forced to marry the villainous version of Luke. Luke internally admires her single-minded nature, while recognizing how her pure heart often triggers major story tragedies. The focus shifts to Dan, the actual protagonist, who enters the academy with a bright and determined smile. Despite his commoner status, Dan's father was a prestigious knight who trained him relentlessly since his early childhood. Dan arrives with a burning ambition to honor his father's legacy by becoming a legendary knight himself. This drive inevitably deepens the fierce political conflict between the royal knight houses and the corrupt aristocrats. Luke watches the boy from afar, sighing at the troublesome and dangerous fate that Dan will soon bring. The formal entrance ceremony finally begins as the students wait for the inaugural address from the top student. Elena, the prestigious first princess of the kingdom, elegantly takes the stage to represent the new freshman class. Luke immediately finds her long speech boring, despite her status as one of the game's most beautiful heroines. Comparing her to his sister Iris, he remains unimpressed and indifferent toward the princess's famous and icy beauty. He reaffirms his loyalty to his own fiancée, deciding that chasing after other heroines is far too exhausting. Libra warns that they shouldn't be careless around rivals, but Luke is more concerned with his own comfort. To Libera's absolute shock, he suddenly manifests his magical floating cushion right in the middle of the hall. He settles into his slime chair, casually deciding to nap through the remainder of the princess's boring address. Luke continues his nap during the ceremony, leaving a flustered Libera to watch over him. She decides to wake him once the long-winded speech finally concludes, appreciating his relaxed nature. Resting deeply on his magical cushion, he remains completely oblivious to the bustling atmosphere around him. Meanwhile, the next official concludes their address as the entrance ceremony finally draws to a quiet close. Nearby, Dan and Linshan observe the sleeping noble from afar with expressions of silent disapproval. Suddenly, Luke's eyes flutter open as the auditorium begins to clear of the other freshmen. Libera informs him that the students are departing, urging him to pack up his unique furniture. He stretches lazily, while Libera comments on the growing rumors surrounding his distinctive and comfortable-looking cushion. Smiling, he recalls her father's first impression of him, floating effortlessly during their initial business meeting. He kindly offers to give her a ride on the magical construct whenever they have free time. Libera beams with pure joy at the invitation, her admiration for him reaching a new peak. However, her obsessive magic-loving side quickly resurfaces as she laments the start of the boring orientation. Luke abruptly takes her hand to lead her away, causing her to freeze in total shock. Noticing her reaction, he quickly lets go and asks if his bold gesture was perhaps unwelcome. She frantically explains it was simply her first time holding hands, prompting him to offer a playful escort. The two walk together toward their first class, unaware they are being closely watched from ahead. Linshan suddenly turns around, her eyes burning with an intense and unmistakable feeling of deep resentment. She scoffs at them for their perceived weakness, leaving Libera startled by the sudden and harsh verbal attack. Libera loudly defends their actions, while the aggressive warrior woman maintains her cold and judgmental stare. Luke casually waves off the tension, urging Libera to ignore the conflict and focus on their day. Libera curiously asks if he's angry, but Luke dismisses it as a total waste of his precious energy, claiming that talking to her is a much more enjoyable way to spend his time and effort, causing the young lady to blush while she tentatively confirms if he truly enjoys their daily conversations, leading to a radiant and sparkling expression as she admits her own profound happiness in his presence. Eventually arriving at the classroom for Class 0, where the elite students gather for their orientation session. finding that seating is entirely open, so they settle into their desks while waiting for the instructor. Soon, a dignified man walks into the room, carrying the aura of a highly focused and intellectual researcher. He stands before the class, preparing to officially introduce himself to the newly assembled group of students. Identifying himself as Glowren Research, the dedicated homeroom teacher who oversees this specialized and prestigious class, introducing the vice homeroom teacher, causing Luke to react with immediate and visible surprise at her sudden appearance. A close-up reveals her striking features, marking her as one of the game's most challenging and elusive heroines. She is revealed as Silas, an ancient elven sorceress whose youthful looks belie her centuries of magical experience. Glowren explains that Class 0 consists of 20 top-tier students, including talented scholarship holders like the commoner Miriru. Suddenly, Linshin raises her hand with a serious expression, demanding to ask a very important and practical question. She inquires about how they will monitor their individual progress and relative rankings among such talented peers. Dramatically, the teacher unveils the magic watch, proclaiming it as a revolutionary invention designed specifically for this purpose. He instructs the students to channel their own magical energy into the device to trigger its activation sequence. Luke flows his mana into the watch, causing the device to emit a soft and steady magical glow. Glowren explains that the invention recognizes their unique magic power to provide real-time updates on grades and ranks. As a digital screen appears, Luke realizes this is the actual status interface from the original game's Academy segment. Luke examines his digital status screen on the Magic Watch, noting his level and placement in Class 0, while the teacher explains that the device utilizes mana detection to register and verify each individual student, pondering the unknown entry in his magic list and wondering if it refers to his secret companion Bal. Observing the comprehensive ranking list, which tracks the relative standing of all 300 first-year students. Noting that the elegant Princess Elena holds the prestigious position of being ranked first in overall performance. Discovering that Ruby dominates the practical skills category while his rival Dan maintains a respectable 10th place. Recognizing Libra as the top magic user and the commoner Miriru as the leader in academic excellence. Casually acknowledging his own second-place standing, while Libera continues to focus intensely on the new interface. As Instructor Glowren begins a passionate lecture regarding the profound importance of developing advanced magical tools, shouting enthusiastically that these inventions represent the pinnacle of human wisdom and the next step in evolution. Until the vice homeroom teacher Silas intervenes by grabbing his collar and ordering him to start the lesson, prompting Libera to remark on the teacher's eccentric personality, while Luke silently identifies her as a similar type, leaning in to playfully ask Libera about her own academic standing, causing the shy girl to startle visibly, causing a brief stir in the classroom as students prepare for the next part of the orientation, leading Libera to hide her face in embarrassment and suggest they continue their private conversation at a later time. Subsequently, Silas takes over the podium to explain that the Academy operates on a flexible elective class system, emphasizing through a display of magic that initial rankings are merely starting points based on entrance exam scores, declaring firmly that every student's future growth and ultimate success in the Academy depends entirely on themselves, warning the class with a clenched fist that failure will result in immediate and ruthless demotion to lower ranks, mentioning that while the rules are strict, certain unique and specific exceptions do exist within the school. Silas introduces the Academy Sword Emperor Cup, the institution's most prestigious annual event held in the massive arena, noting that it draws significant attention from outside forces and remains the highlight of the academic school year, explaining that achieving a high score allows students with poor academic or magical grades to remain in elite classes, while revealing that the champion receives the title of Honorary Knight and entry into national-level tournaments, causing Luke to contemplate the event as a pivotal milestone in Dan's preordained path toward becoming a knight, as winning the cup serves as a critical stepping stone for commoners to elevate their social status significantly, proving their worth to gain official travel permits and eventually rise through the ranks of the kingdom's nobility. Silas further elaborates on the school's combat system, which officially recognizes practice matches between students as ranking battles, mentioning that while students can check details on their magic watches, she will provide a brief summary now, emphasizing that understanding one's own current ranking is vital for initiating or accepting these formal challenges. Preparing the class for a deeper dive into the specific mechanics of the Academy's hierarchy-based competitive structure, a detailed rule set appears, outlining how lower-ranked challengers can potentially seize the positions of their superiors, including restrictions on daily match counts and provisions for appointing proxies in cases of unavoidable physical illness. Luke observes the cold reality of the system, realizing how it encourages the strong to ruthlessly dominate the weak. Recalling that in the game's original plot, he was the first loser to be publicly humiliated by Dan, finding the unavoidable and destined grudge between the two of them to be an incredibly annoying and exhausting prospect. Luke watches as the inevitable disruption begins, sighing while the protagonist Dan prepares to make a move. Suddenly, Dan boldly raises his hand, calling out to the teacher with a confident and determined voice. Silas acknowledges the interruption, turning her attention toward the commoner boy to hear his specific inquiry, prompting Dan to directly ask when the official ranking matches will finally begin for the eager new freshman. Instructor Glowren confirms that official ranking match registrations are now permanently open for all interested students, immediately prompting Dan to slam his hands onto his desk and loudly declare his first formal challenge. As the classroom falls silent, Dan boldly points toward Luke and demands a fight right then, focusing his intense and burning gaze on the young noble who has caught his complete attention. While Luke remains characteristically calm and deeply unimpressed by the sudden and aggressive public outburst, his magic watch emits a sharp notification, officially logging the incoming duel request into the Academy's system. Observing the screen, Luke realizes this is the specific tutorial battle meant to establish his villainous role. He stares back at Dan, mentally comparing this real-life encounter with the original game's predetermined plot, recalling how the repulsive and lazy version of himself was originally destined to suffer a crushing defeat, leading to Dan's inevitable rise in popularity, while Luke becomes the school's most pathetic and mocked student. Considering how the original character would have blindly accepted the challenge out of petty and noble pride, Luke surprises everyone by dismissively waving his hand and bluntly stating that he has no interest. Dan reacts with pure disbelief, accusing the noble of being a coward while Luke calls it a hassle. Leaning forward, Luke points out his second-place ranking and questions what standing Dan currently holds. Learning that Dan is only ranked 20th, Luke argues there is absolutely no merit in fighting him. His cold and logical refusal infuriates the bystanders, causing the hot-blooded Linshin to stand up in rage. She aggressively pounds her chest, shouting that a true noble must always accept challenges with absolute dignity. Resting his chin on his hand, Luke lazily suggests that Linshin should fight him instead then. The warrior maiden is left visibly flustered and trembling with shock by the young master's unexpected proposal. Luke watches her reddened face, noting that she remains just as troublesome and hot-headed as the game described. Luke explains he only wants to help from the background, as active cooperation contradicts his lazy nature. Linshan stomps away in irritation, declaring she is done with the troublesome behavior of her classmates. Dan turns back to the situation at hand, his expression hardening with a sense of duty and determination. Princess Elena interjects with a stern warning, reminding Luke that his ranking will plummet if he continues refusing. Luke closes his eyes for a moment, reflecting on the heavy noble expectations being pushed onto him. He recites the kingdom's creed about guiding the people, though he looks entirely detached from the actual sentiment. The princess declares that the challenge is his duty, causing Luke to feel genuinely annoyed by her persistence. She questions if he was even listening when the teacher spoke about merit and the lack of status. Luke internally sighs, realizing he will likely never be able to truly like the demanding and bossy princess. He rubs his head in frustration, contemplating the difficulty of refusing requests from such high-ranking noble women. Opening his mouth, he prepares to give a definitive answer to the intense pressure from the gathered students. He observes Dan and Linshin, noting that the game's powerful narrative force is far too strong to ignore. Looking toward the massive arena outside, He acknowledges that he has no choice but to finally take action. Summoning his slime companion, he complains about how much he hates the idea of moving his own body. He calculates that to play his villainous role correctly, he must actually lose this specific upcoming match. Watching Dan and Linshin depart, he wonders about the best method to ensure his own planned defeat happens. Libra expresses deep worry about the fight, knowing her master's extreme distaste for physical exercise and athletic labor. Luke reassures her with a confident smirk, stating that defeating the current version of the hero is easy. Libra looks on with sparkling eyes, her respect for his hidden strength and calm demeanor reaching new heights. The orientation finally ends, leaving an exhausted Luke to yawn while Libra watches him with intense, curious interest. Libra giggles while walking with Luke, finding his unique and unpredictable personality to be quite mysterious and charming. Luke questions if his behavior lacks a typical noble air, while Libra explains that nobles usually prioritize appearances. She clarifies with a warm smile that his deviation from societal norms is not a negative trait at all. Feeling relieved by her kind acceptance, Luke admits that he truly wishes to avoid being disliked by her. As they head toward the next destination, he internally laments the physical effort required for the upcoming orientation. Libra suddenly erupts with intense passion, her obsessive love for magic research making her reject any mundane academic path. Meanwhile, Dan and Linshin lead the way toward the arena, while the other students follow from a distance. The hero and his childhood friend maintain a serious atmosphere, focused on their shared goal of martial excellence. Luke recalls the original game's tutorial, where his gluttonous self was once brutally and publicly defeated by Dan. That pivotal loss cemented Luke's reputation as a pathetic villain, while catapulting Dan into immediate and widespread fame. He observes the current timeline with a cold, analytical gaze, knowing he must navigate the predetermined plot carefully. Realizing that the sheer force of the original game narrative is difficult to fully escape despite his changes. Arriving at the entrance of the massive arena, Luke acknowledges that the fated duel has finally become inevitable. Manifesting a tiny portion of his slime bowel, he silently complains about the total hassle of moving his body. He determines that to successfully maintain his role as a minor villain, he must engineer a tactical loss. Dan shouts in frustration as Luke continues to ignore him, accusing the young noble of being an arrogant coward. Turning back with a chillingly sharp expression, Luke tells the commoner to feel honored just to be noticed. Dan reacts with fierce indignation, his sense of justice fueled by the noble's cold and dismissive attitude. The hero demands to know Luke's actual combat level, catching the young master off guard with the unexpected question. Luke checks his magic watch, realizing he has never actually bothered to hunt monsters to increase his level. Dan stares in utter disbelief, sweating as he realizes Luke's combat level is only 1. Standing in the center of the arena, the hero remains frozen by the absurd revelation. He erupts in rage, questioning how a high-ranking noble has never once fought a single monster. Gritting his teeth, Dan's disappointment boils over as he finds the situation far below his expectations. The examiner officially announces the match between the top-ranked Luke and the challenger Dan. Both combatants are ordered to step forward to the center of the vast stone arena floor. Luke offers a detached remark, suggesting they at least make this inevitable struggle somewhat interesting. Taking a firm two-handed grip on his blade, Dan prepares to unleash years of repressed training. The tension reaches its peak as the school's first official ranking match is about to begin. Instructor Glowren raises his hand and shouts the start signal with an energetic, commanding voice. As Dan charges forward, Luke calmly recalls the original game's turn-based mechanics while preparing his counter. Summoning his loyal slime companion, he coldly commands Bal to subdue the hero within 1 minute. Luke prepares to surrender his consciousness, letting Bal take control to manage the annoying physical labor. Drowsiness overtakes the noble as he officially enters his magical sleep state while the first strike lands. Dan gasps in total confusion, realizing his fastest blow has been perfectly parried without any visible effort. Even while unconscious, Luke's body maintains a terrifyingly calm smirk that radiates absolute and effortless superiority. Raising a hand, The automated body manifests thin magical threads that weave through the surrounding arena air. Suddenly, Dan is hoisted high, crying out in pain as the invisible energy binds him like a puppet. The protagonist is tossed around with brutal efficiency, completely helpless against the slime's ruthless and precise movements. With a final and devastatingly powerful kick, Luke disarms the hero and sends his sword flying away. Luke's precise kick sends Dan's sword clattering across the cold stone floor, tightening the invisible magical threads with a bored expression on his face. Dan gasps for air while struggling against the overwhelming pressure of the binding spell. Remembering how the original hero should have won through a miraculous comeback here, Luke decides to conclude the fight, raising his fist to deliver the final strike, lifting the limp and defeated challenger into the air using his non-attribute magic. Analyzing the technical flaws in Dan's immature enhancement magic while the crowd watches, the commoner hero finally loses consciousness, drooping helplessly within the glowing magical restraints. Realizing that winning this tutorial battle might actually cause more trouble than losing, deciding to hide the full extent of his power from the shocked Academy spectators, slamming Dan's body back onto the hard arena tiles with a sudden burst of energy. Linshan and the instructor react with visible horror at the noble's ruthless combat style. The teacher officially declares Luke the victor, while ordering him to release the boy, casually tossing the unconscious protagonist aside like a piece of worthless and broken trash. Linshan's face twists with unbridled fury as she witnesses her childhood friend's humiliating defeat, rushing toward the center of the ring to protect Dan from any further harm, screaming the hero's name in desperation as she reaches his side on the floor, accusing Luke of being a cowardly villain for attacking someone who had lost consciousness, questioning the pride of the nobility while looking down at the defeated and broken pair, coldly warning them that they must face the consequences of forcing him to fight. Luke addresses the silent crowd, boldly offering a ranking match to anyone daring enough to step forward, dismissively touching his forehead while characterizing his brutal victory as a mere service to the student body, casually suggesting that his exhaustion might be the only reason he's willing to entertain further challenges today. Linshan remains frozen in shock beside the unconscious Dan, her heart filled with unbridled rage and disbelief. She trembles with indignation, unable to process the ruthless display of power she just witnessed from the noble. Scanning the rows of terrified spectators, Luke mockingly questions if there are no other brave souls left. Turning his gaze away, he prepares to deliver a harsh lesson about the true nature of their world. He acknowledges the scholarly instructor, claiming a profound respect for individuals who dedicate their lives to knowledge. While Libra watches with a mix of awe and concern, he reaffirms his admiration for magical researchers. A heavy silence falls over the grand arena as the atmosphere shifts into a much darker tone. Looking down at his defeated foes, he declares his utter contempt for fools who rely solely on brute force. Raising his hand with cold authority, he issues a final warning to anyone foolish enough to challenge him. Observing the battered protagonist, he compares Dan's reckless fighting style to that of a mere, unrefined savage. Swirling magical energy surrounds his fist as he vows to crush his enemy's will to ever fight again. With chilling eyes, he tells them to abandon all hope for a future after crossing his path. The surrounding students exchange terrified whispers, completely overwhelmed by the second son's unexpected and terrifying dominance. Despite the violence, Libra and her companions watch with faces flushed in admiration for his overwhelming charisma. Elena observes the scene with a sharp, calculating gaze, fully recognizing the dangerous potential within the Descustos air. Walking away from the carnage, he contemplates how his villainous reputation will now spread throughout the entire academy. Linshan stands over her broken friend, wondering if such heartless cruelty will truly be allowed to go unpunished. Linshan shouts a fierce vow of revenge, promising that Dan will eventually return to defeat him. Turning his back on the emotional outburst, Luke casually instructs Libera to follow him as they depart. Libera questions if staying silent was truly the best choice, but Luke dismissively brushes off her concerns. She realizes Bal secretly prevented Dan from sustaining fatal injuries, despite her master's outward display of ruthlessness. Letting out a massive yawn, Luke reaffirms his desire to remain lazy while Libra offers her support. He explains that explaining himself is a waste of energy, better spent on refining his unique magical skills. Luke reflects that trying to convince fools who only value their own sense of justice is utterly futile. Libra agrees with his logic before a regal voice interrupts their quiet walk through the academy courtyard. Sensing a troublesome encounter, Luke lets out a weary sigh as a high-ranking noble approaches them directly. Princess Elena appears, stating that she is comfortable being addressed simply by her first name among classmates. Luke matches her informality, introducing himself simply and asking what business royalty has with him right now. Stunned by his blunt attitude, Elena admits she has never met anyone so indifferent to her royal status. She mentions hearing about the Descustos family's prowess from her elder brother, who also attends the prestigious academy. Elena formally thanks Luke for the impressive combat demonstration, acknowledging his family's undeniable presence within the school. As the princess departs, Luke wonders about her true intentions, while Libra warns him against underestimating her influence. Dismissing the cryptic conversation, they head back to the dormitories to conclude their first day of academy life. The sun sets over the campus, marking the official end of a chaotic and eventful enrollment ceremony day. Later that night, Luke enjoys a quiet drink on the balcony until a familiar voice breaks his solitude. Karen smiles radiantly, expressing her complete satisfaction after enjoying a long overdue and delicious meal together in private. Looking over the empty plates, she reveals her pride in cooking specifically to please her hardworking and ambitious fiancé. Luke praises Karen's cooking for its revitalizing power, while she shyly warns him against overinflating her ego. Maintaining a charming smile, Luke insists that her successful business ventures warrant a significant amount of pride. Karen attributes her achievements entirely to him, but he modestly claims to have provided only simple advice, emphasizing that the Caribbean house truly excelled at transforming his raw ideas into profitable and thriving commercial enterprises. With a look of pure devotion, Karen laments his humility and expresses a deep desire to praise him. Sipping his wine, Luke explains that her family's growing prosperity directly supports his own comfortable and lazy lifestyle. Taking her hand with sudden intensity, he confirms his serious intentions, while Karen searches his eyes for sincerity. They share a joyful and carefree moment together, reflecting on the many deep conversations that shaped their bond. Acknowledging his family's cold indifference, he prioritizes his health, his laziness, and his genuine love for Karen's cooking. Leaning in close, a blushing Karen playfully questions if her culinary skills are still his only primary attraction. Pulling her into a firm embrace, Luke confesses his profound love and asks to stay the night. Karen gently reminds him of their status as an unmarried couple, her face flushed with sweet and nervous embarrassment. Dropping to one knee, Luke prepares to deliver a heartfelt and life-altering declaration of his absolute and total devotion. He passionately declares that she is far more important to him than any noble title or family legacy. Surrounded by an aura of romantic roses, he charmingly requests to remain by her side throughout the night. Taking his hand, Karen admits that his persuasive words make it impossible for any woman to ever refuse him. The couple enjoys a magical flight over the academy grounds, with Karen jokingly warning him against taking other passengers. Meanwhile, the protagonist Dan engages in intense nighttime training, startled by a sudden presence in the quiet shadows. Spotting his rival perched atop a high stone wall, Dan wonders what suspicious activities the noble is conducting. Approaching with deep suspicion, the hero demands to know if Luke is once again plotting some heartless villainy. Dan observes from the darkness as Luke manifests a concentrated burst of energy during his private night training. The hero's face pales in shock as he realizes his rival is hiding an incredible level of strength. Silhouetted against the night, Luke begins a sequence of complex movements while shrouded in a mysterious magical aura. A series of rapid afterimages fill the courtyard, showcasing a combat technique that is both lethal and precise. Touching his bandages, Dan admits that the noble's movements possess a refined beauty he never previously imagined. Luke maintains a sharp focus, his every strike flowing into the next like a masterfully orchestrated martial dance. Gasping for breath, The protagonist struggles to reconcile this display with the lazy persona Luke shows the world. He contemplates the unique mechanics of this world, where hidden stats can completely override a person's visible level. Dan reflects on his earlier arrogance, realizing he severely underestimated the depth of the second son's dedicated efforts. Gazing up at the high stone wall, he watches the noble, who seems so frustratingly out of reach. The hero notes that Luke's physical attributes are abnormally high, bridging the massive gap in their relative levels. Clenched in the dirt, his fists tremble as he acknowledges the bitter sting of his current and undeniable weakness. Seeing the spoiled noble's true face, Dan realizes that talent is useless without the immense hard work shown here. He looks inward, questioning if his single-minded focus on swordsmanship has blinded him to other paths of power. With a smirk of growing respect, he accepts that he cannot yet reach the pinnacle Luke currently occupies. Looking up at the vast starlit sky, the hero finds inspiration in the sheer scale of the world. He resolves to change his mindset, deciding to utilize every resource available within the prestigious academy walls. Charging forward with renewed vigor, Dan continues his grueling nighttime training to close the distance between them. He identifies his own academic struggles as the primary hurdle preventing him from mastering essential attribute-based magic. Despite his hatred for books, he vows to conquer his studies to become a knight worthy of his legacy. Dan clenches his teeth, fueled by a desperate and burning desire to eventually defeat the unbeatable Luke. Staring at his trembling hand, while admitting he currently cannot envision any path to a true victory. Yet he breaks into a wild grin, finding the prospect of overcoming such a wall incredibly exhilarating. Charging forward with renewed vigor, he reminds himself that this was only his first tactical defeat, vowing to surpass the noble heir one day while watching his distant figure from the quiet shadows. The hero continues his grueling regimen, acknowledging the massive gap in power that still remains between them. Soon, the morning sun rises over the academy dining hall as Luke arrives with his loyal follower Libera. He discovers his sister Iris gracefully enjoying her morning honey tea amidst a quiet and dignified atmosphere. Iris warns him to eat properly, though her low blood pressure makes her appear characteristically grumpy and irritable. Luke observes his sister's growth, noting how she has surprisingly become a much more considerate person at school. Her stunning beauty and refined noble presence have earned her the status of a worshipped idol among students. She even hosted an exclusive welcome party to consolidate the influence of the Academy's powerful aristocratic faction. Meanwhile, rumors of Luke's sensational first victory spread rapidly, attracting a crowd of curious and admiring onlookers. Bidding Iris farewell, he mischievously contemplates developing healthy supplements to aid her chronic morning lethargy and fatigue. Returning to his daily routine, the young master dedicatedly maintains his hygiene during a focused toothbrushing session. As he enters the lecture hall, a sudden wave of tension washes over the other students in his presence. Walking through the corridors, Luke notices how his overwhelming combat display has fundamentally shifted the entire school's dynamic. While royalists harbor deep resentment, the aristocrats worship him, leaving the commoner students in a state of confusion. Entering the quiet study room with Libera, they encounter the hot-blooded Linshin sitting alone at a desk. Sensing his arrival, the warrior maiden turns with a sharp and guarded gaze that radiates pure defensive hostility. Luke observes Linshin's withdrawal, noting that his earlier intimidation effectively secured a temporary peace from unwanted academy confrontations. Settling into his desk with a satisfied hum, he looks forward to finally dedicating his full attention to academics. Instructor Glowren stands before the magical blackboard, announcing that course registration is the first essential step for the students. Luke analyzes the Academy's curriculum, which separates mandatory fundamental studies from specialized elective courses involving practical magical applications. Realizing he can customize his schedule, he smiles while planning a light workload that avoids unnecessary physical exertion. He decides to prioritize theoretical magical knowledge over practical training, believing deep understanding is the key to true sloth. Libra reveals that she has also focused her studies on magic theory and tool development, matching his goals perfectly. With the day's formal lectures concluded, An energetic Libra suggests they depart the classroom to explore the specialized facilities. She leads the way toward the individual training rooms, while Luke follows behind with a curious and interested expression. Libra explains that these private chambers provide a quiet sanctuary for students to conduct personal research or practice magic. She highlights the exclusive perks of Class 0, which include priority access to the kingdom's finest training and research environments. Walking together, Luke contemplates how the Academy's public ranking system is specifically designed to incite fierce competition among students. Arriving at their destination, Libra elegantly presents a heavy wooden door and invites her young master to step inside. Stepping into the room, Luke is momentarily stunned by the sheer, cavernous scale of the hall stretching before him. He remarks on the overwhelming size, prompting Libera to suggest a magical adjustment to make the environment more manageable. She activates a complex magic circle on the floor, unleashing a sudden and brilliant surge of spatial manipulation energy. The vast hall begins to shift and contract as the spatial boundaries are rewritten through her precise and skillful casting. Shimmering lights fill the air while the structure of the training room settles into its new and compact configuration. Proudly presenting the finished result, Libra explains how she successfully reverted the expanded spatial magic to its default dimensions. Luke expresses genuine fascination with her practical magic, eager to begin studying in this quiet and perfectly tailored environment. Luke requests Libera's expert guidance in various magical subjects, to which she enthusiastically pledges her absolute and total devotion. Examining a large magic circle, Luke learns that such complex patterns are essential for stabilizing and manifesting advanced spells. Libera explains that precise drawing is mandatory for activation, requiring rigorous training in the art of intricate magical diagrams. Holding his slime companion Bal, Luke acknowledges that while magic is convenient, it demands a proportional amount of effort. He compares the intuitive nature of attribute magic against the deep mental imagery required for non-attribute energy manipulation techniques. The young master admits his fascination with the depth of sorcery, sharing a rare moment of genuine intellectual curiosity. Sparkling with excitement, Libera confirms her own passion for research and finds their shared interest to be incredibly rewarding. Moving to the main agenda, they transition toward a more formal setting to exchange their detailed and classified profiles. Seated at a large wooden desk, they begin documenting their personal data and magical capabilities for mutual strategic benefit. Gazing down at the shared parchment, they prepare to unveil the hidden truths regarding their individual levels and affinities. Luke reviews Libera's impressive status, noting her top-tier magic ranking and her versatile affinity for the powerful water element. Demonstrating her prowess, Libera manifests swirling water droplets while explaining the element's superior balance between offense and defense. Seeing her immense potential for creative applications, Luke expresses high expectations for her future growth as his primary ally. Finally revealing his own secret paper, Luke prepares to shock Libera with the truth of his unique dual attributes. Libera is left utterly speechless by his sleep and sloth magic, insisting that such dangerous powers remain strictly hidden. Luke reassures his panicked follower that his mentor Marsa is already fully aware of his rare and powerful abilities. Wearing a playful smirk, he asks Libera directly if he can truly trust her to guard his secret forever. Fixing her gaze with a serious expression, the young lady formally accepts the weight of his profound and dangerous secret. She solemnly vows to maintain absolute silence, much to Luke's relief as they solidify their growing and unbreakable bond. Analyzing the recent duel, Libera realizes how sleep neutralized Dan instantly, while marveling at the mysterious power of sloth. Libera expresses pure excitement, eagerly anticipating how her master will eventually utilize his unique and secret magical powers. Luke leans back with a charming smile, admitting that he also shares her high expectations for their future. He points to his status sheet, questioning the mysterious unknown label appearing in his non-attribute magic list. They conclude that Bal is too unique for standard analysis, since original magic lacks any official ministry registration. Libra theorizes that integrating advanced appraisal functions could completely revolutionize how they gather intelligence during dangerous dungeon raids. She explains the technical difficulties of concentrating high-level functions into such a small device without exhausting its power. Watching her passionate lecture, Luke finds her eccentric obsession with magical engineering to be quite amusing and endearing. The sun begins to set over the sprawling academy campus as the focus shifts toward the next curriculum. Instructor Glowren stands before the class, officially announcing the start of the highly anticipated mandatory dungeon practical training. A determined student realizes this event is a crucial milestone for all freshmen seeking to prove their combat worth. A wave of nervous energy fills the lecture hall as students contemplate the dangers lurking within the mysterious ruins. Luke internally sighs with total exhaustion, already dreading the immense physical effort required for such a tedious mandatory task. Team 1 is led by Princess Elena, grouping Libra and Dan together for the upcoming dungeon practical training. Linshin assumes leadership of Team 2, which includes the talented adventurer Ruby, academic prodigy Miriru, and a lazy Luke. Libra quickly raises her hand to pose a very important question regarding the team assignments to the instructor. She protests her assignment, desperately wishing to serve by her master's side instead of joining the princess's team. Luke tells his disappointed follower to simply do her best while working alongside her own assigned team members. He offers a kind and reassuring smile, warning her to stay safe and avoid any unnecessary physical injuries. A dejected Libra slowly settles back into her seat, processing the unfortunate news of their temporary academic separation. Adjusting her glasses with a sharp look, she remains deeply concerned about the potential risks her master might face. Linshan offers a sharp warning to be careful, while Luke and Libra prepare to depart from the main hall. Instructor Glowren formally dismisses the students, ordering them to assemble with their teams for a tactical planning session. Team 2 gathers in a private study room, with Linshan immediately asserting her presence among her new group members. Raising her voice with intense pride, Linshan declares herself the leader, while introducing her prestigious family name to everyone. Miriru shyly introduces herself as a dedicated scholarship student, admitting her preference for books over dangerous physical combat encounters. Ruby confidently joins the conversation, boasting about her extensive adventurer experience and offering to handle any dungeon-related obstacles. Maintaining his characteristically lazy demeanor, Luke offers a brief and incredibly informal introduction to his curious new teammates. Miriru asks for permission to address him more casually, to which Luke agrees with a simple and detached nod. The eager scholarship student offers to run errands for the noble, leaving Luke wondering if she truly values herself correctly. Ruby also requests to call him by his first name, her tail twitching playfully as she waits for his response. Luke struggles to resist the urge to fluff the cat girl's ears as she joyfully rubs against his shoulder in gratitude. Linshan shouts in a sudden and intense fit of unbridled rage, catching the playful group members completely off guard. The warrior maiden screams in pure frustration as her teammates continue to ignore her repeated commands for order. Slamming her fist down, she demands that they immediately begin discussing their specific and vital team combat roles. Linshan yells for order, her face flushing with anger at the group's total and embarrassing lack of discipline. Luke identifies himself as the current target of her anger, matching her intense and fiery gaze with absolute indifference. He internally laments the entire situation, finding the group's chaotic and loud dynamic to be an exhausting social hassle. Noticing his obvious fatigue, Miriru kindly suggests a short break, while Luke lets out a massive and uninhibited yawn. Ruby and Miriru simultaneously compete to offer their laps as pillows, surprising the noble with their sudden and bold affection. Luke sits between the two girls, deciding that receiving lap pillows from strangers is perhaps a bit too much effort. Linshan stares in utter disgust at the group's impure behavior and lack of formal team discipline. She erupts in anger, declaring that napping during a critical strategy meeting is absolutely forbidden. Meanwhile, Luke lets out a tired sigh, complaining that the constant shouting makes peaceful rest impossible. The four teammates eventually settle down in the private room to finalize their official dungeon strategy. Linshan proudly asserts her role, vowing to lead the charge as the team's primary vanguard knight. Ruby brandishes her dagger with a playful grin, offering to support the front line with her high-speed evasion. Proposing to cover the rear, Miriru confidently reveals her proficiency in healing magic and archery techniques. All eyes turn toward Luke, waiting for the high-ranked noble to define his own specific combat role. He bluntly declares his only desire is to sleep, driving Linshin into another fit of shocked rage. Ignoring the leader's fury, Miriru offers a polite and surprisingly accepting smile toward her lazy master. She kindly invites Luke to rest, while promising to carry him herself during the upcoming dungeon exploration. Linshin trembles with indignation, accusing the girls of enabling Luke's lazy habits through their excessive pampering. Overwhelmed by the group's chaotic dynamic, the exhausted leader finally gives up and orders a dismissal. She issues a final command for the team to regroup this weekend for their first dungeon challenge. Watching his teammates depart, Luke marvels at the abnormally high level of favorability they already show him. He contemplates if his prestigious family name is the cause of this unexpected and effortless social success. Imagining himself as a worshipped idol, he wonders if his followers view him through the lens of devotion. Ultimately, he admits that being liked by his teammates makes navigating academy life significantly less troublesome. Passing through the hall, he wonders if Team 1 managed to find any semblance of group harmony. Libera suddenly appears with a radiant smile, joyfully calling out to her master across the busy corridor. Luke and Libera walk through the corridor while he asks if her team's discussion went well. Libera beams with joy, feeling privileged to be the only one trusted with her master's deep magical secrets. Luke glances back at Dan, noting that the hero still watches him with a lingering sense of unease. He watches the protagonist walk away, contemplating the weight of the predetermined narrative they are both trapped in. A sudden realization strikes him as he detects that the hero's intense animosity has finally begun to fade. He continues his solitary walk, having fully expected to be hated by the main character for much longer. Reflecting on this mysterious shift, he finds it slightly strange how quickly their antagonistic dynamic is actually changing. On the weekend, Team 2 arrives at the Forest Dungeon to begin their mandatory Rank 2 practical training. The dungeon is situated in the mountains behind the school, serving as a primary training ground for students. Luke notes that while the difficulty is currently low, culling monsters is essential to prevent dangerous dungeon overflows. He explains how humans gather resources like mana stones and powerful cores from the depths of these mysterious ruins. Ruby adds that adventurers must regularly hunt monsters to maintain the dungeon's rank and ensure public safety nearby. While exploring, Luke relaxes on his cushion as Miriru and Ruby hover over him with genuine concern. Miriru asks if there is anything specific he needs, while Luke maintains his lazy and detached facial expression. He lazily points toward a distant monster in the trees, requesting that she handle the elimination for him. Miriru expertly draws her bow, while Luke promptly drifts back into a peaceful and deep slumber behind her. He ponders the reason behind Miriru's overwhelming favorability, suspecting there is a hidden connection from his past. Days earlier, Karin served tea while mentioning she heard a touching story from Miriru regarding a past miracle. Karen reveals that Miriru is deeply grateful to Luke for once healing her brother's seemingly incurable respiratory illness. Luke recalls the orphanage encounter, finally understanding her loyalty, but wondering why she shared the story with Karen. Miriru approaches Karen to formally request permission to serve Luke as repayment for his past life-saving miracle. Karen smiles warmly, admiring Miriru's deep sense of gratitude, despite the accidental nature of Luke's generous help. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Miriru confirms her success, while Luke enjoys the progress provided by her skills. Shortly after, Ruby returns with a heavy bag of mana stones, noting the stationary monsters made for easy harvesting. Linshin stares in disbelief at the lounging noble, questioning how this leisurely outing qualifies as a dungeon conquest. She erupts in fury, screaming that there is absolutely no combat taking place during this supposed training session. Consequently, Luke explains his strategy, utilizing a massive area of effect search spell to induce automatic sleep in all monsters. As the beasts slumber, Miraru expertly fires her arrows, and Ruby efficiently gathers every valuable resource in sight. Resting on his cushion, Luke lazily asks what's wrong, prompting Linshin to explode with a scream of total frustration. She gestures wildly at the sleeping forest, arguing that bypassing every fight renders their combat training completely pointless. Hoping to ease the tension, Luke asks Miriru to explain his hidden and thoughtful intentions to the angry leader. Miriru steps forward with a dignified expression, prepared to defend her master's unique methods to the skeptical knight. Through several panels, she explains that the monsters are incapacitated to allow Luke to maintain focus on his magic. Furthermore, she adds that thanks to this protection, even non-combatants can safely participate in the dangerous dungeon exploration. This approach provides a rare opportunity to practice archery and raise levels without the risk of fatal surprise attacks. Smiling radiantly, Miriru asks if Linshin now understands the profound kindness hidden behind Luke's apparently lazy actions. Luke observes her enthusiasm, noting that Miriru's personality has completely transformed from her initial and shy academic introduction. She looks back with curiosity, unaware that her devoted actions have caught the young master's focused and quiet attention. Offering a gentle reward, Luke reaches out to pat her head while praising her for a job well done. Ruby immediately dives in with a pout, demanding her own share of head pats for her hard work. Luke continues patting Miriru and Ruby, feeling slightly overwhelmed by their sudden and intense devotion during their break. While Linshin watches them with a face flushed in frustration, muttering about how strange their behavior truly is. She erupts into a lecture about the inherent dangers of dungeons and the absolute necessity of building teamwork. However, she suddenly freezes in shock as Luke counters her argument with his own logical and cold perspective. Fixing her with a sharp gaze, he bluntly questions what could possibly be wrong with prioritizing their safety. Linshin looks away, her eyes reflecting a mix of confusion and the weight of her traditional knightly upbringing. Lounging comfortably on his cushion, Luke explains that his methods ensure everyone returns home without a single scratch. Nearby, Linshin clenches her gloved fist as she struggles to reconcile her duty with his undeniably efficient results. He narrows his eyes, pointedly asking if she would rather put their teammates in unnecessary and avoidable danger. Linshin shouts a frantic denial, her face turning bright red as she tries to defend her own combat philosophy. Maintaining his calm composure, Luke asks her to reconsider who is actually being reckless during this training session. The warrior maiden is left visibly flustered and speechless, realizing her rigid mindset is being thoroughly challenged. Deciding that they have reached a stalemate, Luke raises his hand and formally dismisses the group for today. As the area falls quiet, even the surrounding monsters remain in a state of peaceful, magically induced slumber. Linshan stares into the distance, her expression hardening as she realizes the depth of the noble's hidden intentions. Resting on his cushion, Luke prepares to relax, while Ruby continues to watch over him with pure adoration. Surprisingly, Linshin bows her head and offers a quiet apology for her earlier and overly aggressive behavior. She looks up with renewed determination, suggesting they should continue the exploration while there is still daylight left. Charging forward with her blade drawn, she finally decides to embrace the unique pace of their unusual team. The group works in perfect harmony, with Miriru firing arrows, while Ruby gathers the remains of the defeated beasts. Luke enjoys a peaceful nap on his luxurious magical cushion while drifting through the quiet forest. The team finally gathers their spoils as Luke expresses his intense relief that the long day is over. Suddenly, Linshin stops him in his tracks, speaking his family name with a tone of heavy significance. She stands firm, officially challenging the second son to a formal ranking match right then and there. Luke reacts with a sharp, dismissive sigh, clearly finding the persistent knight's demands to be incredibly tedious. He reminds her of Dan's humiliating defeat, questioning why she would seek a similarly painful outcome. Linshin's face flushes with anger, while Luke internally laments how troublesome these emotional confrontations truly are. Turning to his loyal companion, he asks Ruby to take his place as the challenger's opponent instead. Linshin erupts in protest, demanding a true duel without the use of his overwhelming and unfair magic. She is left speechless when Luke questions the logic of unnecessarily putting their own team in danger. With a chillingly cold gaze, he declares his utter hatred for those who rely on unrefined savagery. He leans in close, whispering a terrifying question that leaves the proud warrior woman trembling with fear. The group debates the merits of the match, while Ruby insists she is a suitable combat partner. Standing his ground, Luke firmly reiterates that he has absolutely no intention of participating in the duel. Sensing the absolute weight of his resolve, Linshan finally lowers her head and admits her quiet defeat. Luke asks Ruby if she is ready to handle the situation, receiving an enthusiastic and confident response. He considers this arrangement a compromise, knowing Linshan only understands the world through the lens of combat. Ruby steps forward as his official representative, her tail twitching with anticipation for the upcoming struggle. With a playful wink and a sharp point, she boldly declares her formal challenge to the Knight Leader. Linshan accepts the terms, while Luke hopes this final concession will finally bring him some much-needed peace. Linshan pauses the tension to ask one final question before the duel officially commences. She demands to know why a seasoned adventurer would ever acknowledge a lazy noble like Luke. Ruby simply laughs at the absurdity of the inquiry, mocking the knight's narrow and elitist perspective. The cat girl explains that a true adventurer's objective is far more practical than just winning fights. Monster hunting is a grueling job where survival is the only reward for a day's labor. She declares that completing a mission without taking a single wound is the ultimate happiness. Linshan is left momentarily speechless by such a pragmatic and survival-oriented outlook on combat philosophy. The proud knight struggles to find a proper rebuttal to the Beastkin's blunt and honest words. Eventually, she decides to postpone her final answer until after their ranking match is settled. Princess Elena steps forward to signal the formal start of the high-stakes battle between them. Ruby explodes into motion, her incredible Beastkin speed leaving the surrounding spectators in total shock. The two warriors clash in a whirlwind of strikes as the entire arena rings with steel. Ruby taunts her opponent while effortlessly dancing around the knight's heavy and powerful sword swings, skillfully utilizing the environment. She kicks off the stone walls to maintain her relentless momentum. Linshan is forced into a defensive retreat, barely blocking a devastatingly fast strike with her shield. The combat intensity peaks as they exchange rapid blows, neither willing to yield an inch of ground. Observations from the crowd confirm that a human's reaction time cannot match a beastkin's natural agility. Multiple after-images surround the knight, making it impossible for her to track the next incoming attack. Desperate and completely overwhelmed, Linshan realizes her shield defense is failing against the brutal onslaught. Ruby finally summons the power of the wind to deliver a crushing and decisive final blow. Linshan struggles to maintain her footing as a powerful whirlwind attack completely envelops the arena floor. Ruby strikes with blinding speed, catching the knight off guard while she remains focused on defensive maneuvers. A devastating impact sends shockwaves through the courtyard, signaling the end of the intense ranking match battle. Linshan collapses in total defeat while the victorious Beastkin calmly walks away from the scene of combat. The proud warrior lies unconscious on the cold stone, her will finally broken by Ruby's overwhelming physical strength. Turning back with a confident smirk, Ruby declares that the unnecessary and tedious struggle is finally over. Standing with dignified composure, Luke officially announces Ruby as the winner of the first Academy ranking duel. The team reunites as Luke offers sincere praise to his companion for her exceptional performance and quick victory. He rewards Ruby with affectionate head pats, causing her to purr with delight after the grueling physical exertion. While tending to her, Luke remains focused on the next steps of his plan within the Academy's hierarchy. Silas kneels to inspect the fallen knight's condition, while Luke prepares to depart with his loyal followers. Looking up with a serious expression, the vice homeroom teacher asks Luke for his thoughts on the brutal outcome. Luke suggests transporting the defeated warrior to the medical infirmary to ensure she receives proper care and recovery. He dismisses the gathered team for the day, delegating the final logistics while preparing for his own rest. Utilizing his magical slime construct, the young noble carries the unconscious girl through the long academy corridors. Privately, Luke reflects on the fact that Linshin was actually his most beloved character in the original game. He recalls her happy ending from the romance route, where she lived peacefully as a devoted, loving mother. Observing her now, he contemplates the many different paths and tragic outcomes she faced in other game scenarios. Memories of the original villain's cruelty resurface, showing a dark timeline where she was forced into absolute submission. He visualizes the game's hero reaching out to save her, promising a future where they can live together. Luke recalls a game screen detailing a tragic ending where he dies and Linshin is lost forever. A grim vision of the protagonist standing over the young noble's lifeless and bloody body appears. Linshin weeps uncontrollably over her fallen husband in a cold and desolate room while others watch. She glares at the hero through tears, accusing him of murdering the man she truly loved. The hero's blood-stained hand trembles as he grips his sword, haunted by the weight of his actions. A heavy silence fills the chamber as the grieving princess remains anchored to the cold, dead noble. Her eyes reflect a sudden and terrifying shift in resolve as she stares into the hollow abyss. Declaring that she will never belong to another, she hugs her husband while a mysterious light erupts. Her body dissolves into brilliant flames, leaving the hero screaming in total and utter despair. Dan reaches out frantically as light consumes her, yet he is far too late to intervene. A massive mana explosion rocks the room, marking the final departure of the tragic princess. A narration explains how she recognized the one she gave her heart to as her only husband. The vision fades as the current Dan stands frozen in the academy hallway, drenched in a cold sweat. Memories of the past show Linshin kindly comforting a younger, crying version of the neglected noble boy. Luke reflects on her serene beauty and the deep affection she once held in those lost timelines. A humorous inner thought depicts her as a woman who inadvertently spoils the men in her life. Returning to the present, Luke maintains a calm and detached expression despite the heavy memories he carries. Dan suddenly snaps out of his daze as he notices Luke carrying the unconscious Linshin nearby. The hero asks if his friend lost, prompting Luke to clarify that the defeat wasn't against him. Luke explains he refused the duel and let Ruby fight instead while the confused hero listens. Luke and Dan share a rare moment of civil conversation as they stand alone in the hallway. Dan reflects on his initial prejudice, surprised by the noble's remarkably calm and collected demeanor during their encounter. Luke begins to turn away, casually remarking on how unexpected the hero's sudden change in attitude truly is. Looking somewhat sheepish, Dan admits he feels responsible for the unnecessary trouble he caused the Disgustos family house. The protagonist offers a sincere and formal apology, lowering his head in a display of genuine and heartfelt remorse. Luke watches him closely, wondering if the once hot-blooded hero is secretly harboring some hidden and treacherous new agenda. He directly questions the motivation behind this sudden shift, seeking clarity while Dan struggles to find the right words. Despite their families being destined enemies, Dan acknowledges the weight of their current and complicated social dynamic. Luke remains silent as the hero continues to explain his perspective, while the atmosphere grows increasingly heavy and serious. Clenching his fist, Dan praises those who achieve great things through immense effort and walk far ahead of others. He finally admits that Luke is far from the arrogant and unpleasant aristocrat he originally imagined him to be. A subtle and mysterious smile plays across the young noble's face as he processes the hero's unexpected praise. Luke mockingly notes the fool's sudden growth, his tone carrying a hint of playful yet characteristically biting noble arrogance. Dan reacts with a competitive grin, telling his rival to shut up while the tension finally begins to dissipate. Preparing to depart, Dan takes custody of the sleeping Linshin and expresses his gratitude for the young master's help. The hero confesses that despite being political enemies, he no longer views the second son as a truly bad person. Mentioning the princess's stubbornness, Dan is interrupted when Luke questions why the hero is suddenly being so unguarded. Suddenly, Luke's expression darkens with an intense and chilling coldness as he demands to know what the servant understands. A terrifying and overwhelming aura erupts from the noble, casting a dark shadow over the entire silent academy corridor. Dan is left trembling in fear as he experiences the true and unfiltered pressure of the Disgustos bloodline firsthand. Dan stands firm while carrying Linshin, earning a rare nod of acknowledgement from a surprisingly intense Luke, who notes the hero's growth, acknowledging that he finally possesses the necessary resolve to face his destined path, encouraging him to remain a righteous protagonist. Luke offers a mysterious smile that leaves Dan utterly bewildered. Walking away, the young noble warns Dan not to misunderstand his intentions as anything more than selfish convenience. He reaffirms his public persona, declaring himself to be nothing more than a fundamentally lazy and villainous noble. As he disappears down the corridor, Luke leaves Dan with a final command to never forget their relative positions. Dan remains frozen in place, sweating under the physical and mental weight of his friend and Luke's words. A subtle, knowing smirk appears on the noble's face as he contemplates the upcoming shifts in Academy dynamics. Luke finds the situation rather unbelievable, yet he prepares himself for the next inevitable phase of his education. Silas officially announces the commencement of outdoor lessons, requiring all teams to survive inside a dungeon for days. She details the harsh requirements for food and shelter, testing the students' practical survival skills in a dangerous environment. The gathered teams listen with varying levels of intensity, aware that their rankings are once again on the line. Teachers watch over the assembly as students prepare to venture into the unknown depths of the Academy's training grounds. Luke reacts with annoyance when Linshin approaches him, already tired before the grueling outdoor practical has even begun. Having recovered, Linshin expresses her shock at Luke's total lack of preparation or luggage for the 3-day trip. She proudly displays her own massive pack, insisting that a proper noble lady must always be prepared for anything. Mariru and Ruby exchange skeptical looks, noting the impracticality of carrying such a heavy load into a dark dungeon. Luke delegates the problem, ordering Ruby to audit the luggage, while Mariru educates the knight on proper dungeon conduct. The girls immediately set to work, dismantling the massive pack, ignoring Linshin's protests, while Luke waits with total indifference. Stripped of her unnecessary gear, a humiliated Linshin collapses to her knees, questioning her current and very unfortunate fate. Luke lounges while Linshin questions his carefree attitude during the preparation phase. The group gathers as Luke casually admits he may have packed too many useless items. Linshin grumpily eats her sandwich, refusing to share despite her teammates' obvious and visible hunger. Luke reveals his spatial pouch, proving he has already stored all essential survival supplies in advance. The young noble tells his teammates to ignore him while they navigate the forest together. With a polite gaze, he officially begins their 3-day dungeon practical training session now. Settling onto his floating cushion, he orders the group to find a suitable campsite immediately. The group's silhouettes move deeper into the dark forest under the canopy of ancient trees. Linshin shouts in frustration as Luke continues reading, while floating effortlessly through the woods. She reveals she heard from Dan about Luke's attempt to carry her to the infirmary. Mariru mentions returning a favor from the past, while Ruby ponders who is actually stronger. A flustered Linshin demands to know if he has been secretly training his entire life. Slamming his book shut, Luke bluntly reiterates his absolute and total hatred for physical exercise. His expression sharpens as he announces, "It is finally time to enter the dark dungeon." Reclining completely, he entrusts the upcoming combat entirely to his capable and dedicated female teammates. The 3 warriors prepare their weapons, enthusiastically accepting the challenge to protect their lazy leader. The combined teams step forward together, officially commencing the dangerous and high-stakes dungeon conquest mission. They descend into the cold, crystalline depths, where a mysterious glow illuminates the path ahead.